Coming up now is another sparkling Two Mikes podcast. Two geriatric old pensioners trying to relive their youth.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to the Two Mikes on Talk Sport. The Fox hunt is on for a new manager at Leicester after last night's bizarre decision to sack Ranieri 298 days after he won the Premier League for them. Will it be Chris Coleman or Roberto Mancini or Alan Pardew or somebody else? We'll be finding out, and we want to hear from you as well. 08717 223344. We'll be tackling Spurs and the Wembley curse as well, but it won't be Dele Alli style, and we'll find out why bees like playing football. Also coming up on the show, it's the Porky Quiz, and because it's the big EFL Cup final at Wembley, the subject is, of course, the League Cup. I'm predicting 2 out of 10. You're listening to the Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes in for Jim White, who's just left the building. This is normally where he sits, but we're sitting in for him today, and it's time to say a very good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good morning to you, Mike. Delighted to be here in mid-morning, as you say. Glistening day outside.
Very nice, isn't it? Yeah.
Powder blue sky,
Spring-like.
bright sunshine, spring-like, as you quite rightly say. Spring just around the corner, but
yes,
spring has sprung.
Spring has sprung.
For Claudio.
Spring has sprung for Claudio. Nice to be in at this time on such a slow news day.
Yes,
Jeremy Corbyn has found himself back in the relegation zone after losing an historic by-election
Sorry,
last
did he
night.
ever get out of the relegation?
Well, I'm not sure he did. I think he was tempering around with it. Danny Ranieri suddenly last night loses his job. You've been predicting this for some time, but you also...
Really.
Well, you have, because you said they should have fired him at the start of the season.
Yeah, I didn't...
He hasn't won a game, I don't think, now since, December?
December 31st. He hasn't won a game this year.
But bizarrely, he has a reasonably good performance, albeit that, they could have lost to Sevilla maybe 4 or 5-0. But they get a decent result in the Champions League. Why on earth sack him now?
You kind of get the feeling the decision was made before the Sevilla game.
Possibly so.
Yeah, because there's only two men who have any authority or power at the King's Power, and they are the chairman and the vice chairman, Mr. Vichai Shrivardhana Prabha,
Did you not have him as
one?
And you had him only on Monday night as one of the villains of the piece, didn't you?
Well, in the sense that I thought that it was bad direction to have a manager who's floating around in 17th in the Premier League without doing anything about it.
Yes.
Now, I think he should have done something about it last summer. Now, I've been roundly criticised overnight when I I was out on social media last night saying this should have happened last summer, but I'm absolutely sticking by my principles. In 2003, Real Madrid got rid of Del Bosco after he'd won the Champions League and La Liga.
Del Bosco.
Del Bosco, yeah. And he then went on to win world and European titles with Spain.
Sure.
So it just shows that he was a brilliant manager, but...
So Real Madrid's a bit of a special case, isn't it?
Well, yes, but the point is, to be a special case, you've got to think big and think special, and... If you take that in itself, Real Madrid said the reason they asked him to leave at the time was they thought there was a better manager available to take on. And I've been saying for years that I think Manchester United, in the last 2 or 3 years of Sir Alex Ferguson's reign, could have taken on a manager who was available.
Absolutely.
And similarly, Arsenal should have, at some time of the last 5 years, when a really top-class manager becomes available, they should have said to Arsenal, thank you very much, and taken a better manager on.
Well, surely there should be what is called a succession plan, right? I mean, you wouldn't expect Leicester necessarily to have a succession plan, but certainly Man United should have done, because it all went horribly wrong for 2 years. Same with Arsenal. They should have a succession plan, but they don't appear to.
No, they don't appear to. Now, if you put those facts about, acquiring the best possible manager who's available at the time, together with the statement from the chairman and the vice chairman today.
Well, it's a bizarre thing, isn't it? They call him the greatest manager Leicester's have ever had.
Yes.
You're fired. I mean, how mad is that?
Yeah, but I'm sorry, it's obvious where the lack of motivation came from. They said at the start of the season, we said to Claudio, we don't expect you to reproduce or replicate what you've done last season. It's impossible.
Yeah.
The first and only priority is to stay in the Premier League. Well, they're still in the Premier League.
Exactly, so why fire him now?
I've no idea.
And it doesn't appear as though, whether they've spoken to Roberto Mancini or not, whether Chris Coleman is currently being spoken to, they don't appear to have somebody waiting for him for the job, do they?
No, they don't. And getting back to last summer, they didn't act like Premier League champions. Premier League champions then should be drawing up a list of some of the best players in the world to come and play for you. Very hard sell at Leicester because, of course, they came out out of nowhere to win the Premier League title, but they didn't show an ounce of that sort of ambition or that sort of drive. For instance...
Well, in fact, they allowed the one player that made them so successful, Kante, to go to Chelsea, who is now going to be part of another Premier League winning team by the looks of it.
You're absolutely right. For instance, Mr. Abramovich, who runs Chelsea, has no qualms whatsoever about getting rid of a manager when he believes there's somebody better around who can manage Chelsea. Right. Now, I know that maybe, but I'm not sure, maybe the owners of Leicester, King's Power, don't have the resources Mr. Abramovich, but maybe they have, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
they're very wealthy Thai
businessmen. Yeah.
They should have, in my view, have gone and got a first-class manager to then take on the challenge of Europe.
But the point is they already had a first-class manager, and that first-class manager was Claudio Ranieri. I think it's very, very bad form to say that Ranieri's not a world-class manager.
Well, if he's
a guy who did brilliantly. He's got Leicester into the final stages of the Champions League. They might yet actually make the quarter-finals.
They might, and I think they will. I think they will.
It's very possible. I don't know how good the guys who are now left in charge, Mr. Shakespeare and Mr. Stowell. But, I mean, let's not forget that Ranieri was a manager of Chelsea. He got fired by Abramovich.
Yeah.
He's had a bit of a checkered career, but he did brilliantly.
This is precisely the point. The reason why I'd argue with you that he's not a world-class manager is in the previous 30 years of football management, he didn't win anything, and his last job before going to Leicester was so bad at Greece.
Down in Greece,
They paid him £100,000 just to walk away, which is a lot of money in Greece.
I thought he got an €800,000 severance deal.
I read £100,000. During the course of his career, he got £3 million off Valencia. I mean, this guy's been a serial failure until he got to Leicester, and then, in my view, inherited a lot of good work by Nigel Pearson, the previous manager, and did very little to disrupt the team and took them on to the most unlikely Premier League title. So I repeat again.
Well, Gary Lineker said that he thinks that this has been, these are not his words, but basically a very classless move by Leicester, to betray a man who's done so well, who's taken Leicester to the very heights. Not now they didn't. Absolutely didn't. But we want to hear from Leicester fans.
One place above relegation.
One, who do you want to come in? And two, what can you tell us about these guys, Shakespeare and Stowell, Mike Stowell, who are going to be running the
Hardly
team?
Anything.
I mean, against Liverpool on Monday night, that's going to be a very, very tough game, and it could send them down into the bottom three.
Yeah, but they had to do something. But the problem was, what they've done is now they've actually corrected a mistake, and the mistake was made last summer. They should honestly have said, Claudio, it's fantastic what you've done. Here's a £5 million bonus. Thank you for winning us the Premier League. We are going to build a statue of you outside our ground because you are a legendary figure who brought us our first...
But now we want you to leave.
But now we would like you to go and seek a job somewhere else. And it wouldn't be at all, bitter or twisted. It would be Ranieri. I mean, by the way,
to be honest,
shouldn't Claudio have thought about leaving at the peak of his managerial success?
He said only the other day that he actually could have gone to another club because he was so feted, because he'd done so well, because so unexpected. He could have pretty much named his price at very many clubs across Europe.
Yes.
But if they had done it, I did agree with you in one sense, that if they had done it then, Leicester would have appeared to be a ruthless club bent on victory. Now they appear to be a ruthless club bent on defeat. That's the difference.
No, they now appear to be a club with a broken rudder.
Yeah.
And that is the worst possible position in which to be. It's the same as in politics, right? Let's have a decision one way or the other, but if we have uncertainty, then I'm afraid everybody's a loser.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM, Talk Sport.
And they are tearing the champions apart brick by brick. It's Liverpool 3, Leicester City 1.
And the champions are in crisis here at the King Power Stadium.
The champions wilting once again, and Kasper Schmeichel is left red-faced.
Leicester have now gone over 8.5 hours without a league goal. They're not just sleepwalking towards relegation, they're sliding there at breakneck speed.
Breaking news that is just reaching us here on Talk Sport, that Claudio Ranieri, the Leicester City manager, has been fired.
If I'd have won the Premier League, I'd have expected longer. You know what I mean? Yeah, and even though things have not gone so well this year, I think they should have stuck with the manager.
You have to feel for Claudio Ranieri because he's been a victim of his own success, coming to the club and doing something that, I've not seen in my lifetime in football, what he achieved at Leicester City last season.
Something had to change. I think it gives them a chance now, mate. Honestly, I think it couldn't stay the way it was. Whether you're going to blame the players or not, I think it's a collective thing. But something did have to change, and unfortunately, obviously, Claudio was the only one really that could go at this moment in time.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any more bizarre, the Premier League always comes up with a couple of surprises.
Yeah,
This is the Two Mics on TalkSport with Wix. Right now, there's 50% off selected power tools like the Wix 18-volt cordless combi drill with 2 batteries, now just $49.99. Perhaps Mr. Ranieri might want to get one of those and do a bit of housework while he's waiting for his next job.
That's a bit harsh. Can't you take this seriously? This poor man's career is devastated, but it's not of his making. He should have been offered the opportunity to change career direction last summer. Now, loads and loads of tweets and texts and things coming in. This one here, it says, Porky's lost the plot again. Don't object to me losing the plot, but the again bit is a bit harsh.
Well, you do it frequently.
It says, you're talking about a statue and then the sack. Oh, you mad. Ranieri, 2016, FIFA, LMA, BPL, Manager of the Year. Yes, I agree with all of that. And he should have taken all those and said, thank you very much, and then disappeared into the sunset. Because basically, he was chancing his luck by hoping he could ever get beyond that pinnacle that he reached at the end of last season.
Well, James says, regardless of what's happened subsequently, sacking Ranieri last June would have been absolute lunacy.
No.
And Dave wants to pick you up on a bit of a double standard, because you said when Nico Rosberg left the Formula One business that he was a loser after winning.
Yes.
You're now saying Ranieri doesn't leave after winning, and he's also a loser.
No,
so which way round do you want it?
Rosberg just walked away. He shocked everybody by saying, I've just become world champion, now I'm walking away. Ranieri would not have walked away. He would have been steered away for his own good and his own benefit. There's absolutely no comparison whatsoever. By the way, Rosberg was still only halfway through his career. Ranieri had reached the mountain of his.
Well, we're going to take some calls very, very shortly. We want to hear from you. 08717 223344. Chris Coleman's in the frame, apparently. Roberto Mancini.
Good manager,
could it
Coleman.
go to Alan Pardew? Who knows? But here's some interesting information, which has been sent to me from Nathan, right, on Twitter, at the Two Mics.
Nathan Jones.
Claudio Ranieri is number 5 all-time Premier League manager in terms of a minimum of 200 games played and a win percentage of 49.8%.
Yeah.
The only 4 managers above him are Rafa Benitez, Arsene Wenger, Jose Mourinho, Alex Ferguson.
Yeah, well,
I rest my case.
I can believe that, because when he was at Chelsea, he had the unstinting support of Ken Bates, who was then the chairman for most of his tenure there until Mr. Abramovich came in, and then he was sent down the yellow brick road.
Yeah.
And, of course, in his first year at Leicester, he became the Premier League top boss.
Yeah.
So I would imagine he has got a very good record. And having had that record, he's diluted it now with a really bum season this season.
Yeah, but how can you say that he is therefore a bad manager? He's not. Let's talk to some people out there. David is a Crystal Palace fan. David, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Very good morning, gentlemen.
Yeah, hello, David.
As always. Gentlemen, I'm a little bit fed up at the moment because we've been indoctrinated with the top managers, these top foreign managers, Mourinho, Pellegrini, Guardiola and everything else. If my mum was given the amount of money they've got, she could manage a team and get them up the top. Unfortunately, we have not got many foreign managers at the bottom of the Premier League who have to go to Stoke City and other clubs and fight to keep clubs up. And as a Palace fan, I hope that Leicester appoint a foreign manager because it's going to give us more chance of staying up.
I would have thought, David, as a Palace fan, you'd be hoping they might pinch Big Sam Allardyce away from you. Didn't seem to be doing very well.
Bit harsh.
No, Sam's the man. He's going to get us out of trouble.
Yeah, sorry.
And he's had a look. He's going to get the back shored up and we'll be fine.
Yeah, Dave, sorry, do you want a British manager for Leicester or a foreign manager?
If I take my hand off the heart, the only way they've got us staying up is having a British manager who's going to roll the sleeves up, get them...
Yeah, but there's very few of them around.
As Wimbledon, as Leicester last year, they've all got to join together and fight and get themselves sorted out.
The only trouble is, David... David, thank you very much indeed.
David, yeah.
There's only a few of them around. I think Chris Cole, of any British manager available, Chris Coleman is a great opportunity.
Well, Chris Coleman's done a brilliant job at Wales.
Yes,
right?
he has.
Has he got a brilliant club reputation? I'm not sure he does.
His first season at Fulham was one of great distinction.
It was, but after that, it all fell away, didn't it?
The obvious choice for me would be Rafa Benitez because
he's already got a job.
Well, yes, I know he's already got a job, and he'll come away from Newcastle as a hero. He gets them back into the Premier League, and that is for sure. But the ambitions of the Leicester board now have to be to restore Leicester to near to the glory they had as Premier League champions. That does not appear to be the ambition at Newcastle.
But to be fair
the board.
and to be honest, I mean, nobody expected Leicester to stay in the top 4. Nobody really expected Leicester to repeat.
I did.
Why?
Because they should have had the ambition to say to themselves, right, here's £100 million to the new manager, which is not Claudio, because he hasn't got a track record of great buys.
But don't you think part of the reason for their demise, aside from them them allowing Kante to go to Chelsea, which was the main reason, that everybody figured out how to play them. And suddenly, instead of Jamie Vardy, getting balls over the top and scoring goals whenever he wanted to, suddenly everybody sat back and they didn't let them play the way that they like to play, which is on the break.
That is too simplistic to say, everybody worked out how to play them.
I think it's true.
Bring in a continental manager to Leicester who'll devise another method, but whereby the opposition will have to spend another season working out how to read them and how to play them. No, I mean, it was just a complete inertia. That's what it was.
Well, I'm not sure
it's all
about
very well having a celebration in the park at Leicester with 250,000 people there.
And Andre
Bracelli. I think the party went on too long.
Yeah, I'm afraid it turned into, what do you call it, a Greek tragedy rather than an opera. But I'm going to talk to Paul, who's a Leicester fan, in a second. Tim says this at the 2 Mike. Surely they should have waited until the outcome of the Champions League adventure. It's the least he deserves. Absolutely right. 3 more weeks they could have waited. And if he'd got them into the quarterfinals of the Champions League, then surely
But they might have been in the relegation zone by then.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, look, it was far too late, but it had to be done.
Let's talk to Paul, because your opinions are of great value, but I've heard enough of them now. Let's talk to somebody else, shall we?
Yeah, people like my opinions.
Paul, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning.
Yeah, hello, Paul.
What do you think, Paul?
Hi. OK, well, firstly, let me just correct you. Leicester City did not win the league by long balls to Jamie Vardy. I hear that all the time, and it was much more than that.
Well, of course it was, but they won. They scored an awful lot of goals that way.
We did. This is not the problem. Let's be clear.
What does it matter anyway? What does it matter how you won the Premier League? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
No.
It was won. It doesn't. But what Ranieri's done for Leicester, he will be a god in Leicester. And I agree we should have a statue, and we probably will. Yeah. But the bottom line is, people are saying he's not had enough time. Most of this outcry is coming from supporters of other clubs. They don't watch Leicester week in, week out. He has had enough time. Winning the Premier League last year has bought him the time till now, because if that hadn't happened, he'd have gone before Christmas.
Indeed.
We're playing terrible. We're not looking like scoring. Clearly the players aren't playing for him. Yes, we lost Kante. We lost one player. Now, you can't tell me that one player is the difference between winning the Premier League by 10 clear points and being nearly relegated.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's made a big difference to Chelsea, hasn't it? And look how far ahead they are. This guy is brilliant. They should never have. They shouldn't. Well, it's not just that, no, because nothing is one thing. But it's an indication of how Leicester allowed their best player to leave the club thinking it wouldn't matter. And it mattered hugely.
We didn't allow him. He wanted to go. If a player wants to leave, you can't keep a player. We can't keep an unhappy player. He wanted to leave, and Leicester City did the gracious thing and let him go. Now,
no, but that's gracious is not good. Gracious is not good. They shouldn't have made it so easy for him to leave.
Doesn't get you anywhere, does it?
No.
Maybe not, but at the end of the day, there's no point in keeping him.
So where do we go?
Last year.
So where do we go now, Paul?
Chelsea got rid of Mourinho in the same way, so they're improving again. Now, I think you'll see an improvement here because the players wanted Ranieri gone.
Why?
They're the ones. Why? Because tactically, if you read some of the information that's coming out now, changing tactics 2 hours before a game, there's so many games they clearly did not know what they were doing. There was one game that Christian Fuchs was moved to left back and he's a right back, and you could see him on the TV mouthing, why am I playing here? They'd lost confidence. Ranieri picked up a team, yes, that Nigel Pearson built, but I won't have it that was Nigel Pearson's team that won the league.
He put the foundations in.
Did that.
He put the foundations
in.
Paul, let me ask you this, please.
Need to tinker.
Let me ask you this. Nobody knows whether he, quotes, lost the dressing room or not. You know, that's always the big cry, he'd lost the dressing room. And people overnight have been saying the players should be ashamed of themselves. But surely the manager's job is to motivate the players and give them a reason and a purpose to go out in a Leicester shirt and do it all over again. He lacked in that, didn't he?
He absolutely did. That's his job. You know, that's one of the biggest arguments that's raging on social media at the moment. At the end of the day, there's lots of people blaming the players, but do you know what? He's the manager.
Of course.
He's the leader. They go and work for him. Now, you talk about Leicester City investing money in the summer. They invested £60 million in an absolute load of dross. It's not just Ranieri who's culpable here. It's the director of football.
And how much do they get back? How much do they get back for Ngali, you see? And you say Ngali. The figures, by the way, which I studied this morning, Ngali has made more defensive and recovery tackles for Chelsea on his own this season.
Who are you talking about?
Ngolo.
Yeah, it's not Ngali.
That's right. Just shut up for a minute.
Yeah, well, you've got to get the pronunciation
and
right.
He's made more defensive tackles and recoveries himself for Chelsea this season than the other three Leicester City players who've played in his position since he went. Okay?
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
Paul, I'm terribly sorry I
Combined.
couldn't get more of your opinions on the programme because, of course, Mr. Parry is once again hogging the airwaves.
Talk Sport on DAB, digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Freedom for sport.
Can we kick it? Yes, we can. Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Leicester are in crisis. Are they going to end up back down into the Championship? Who knows, right? There's a lot of names coming forward
Certainly are.
for the job, right?
How's the poll looking?
The poll, actually, so far, it's going to be open for about just under 2 hours from now. Leading the field right now at 49%, Roberto Mancini.
Oh, right. I thought it was Rafa Benitez.
Started strong, but he's down to the bottom, actually, at 14%.
Right.
Alan Pardew, 19%. Chris Coleman, 18%.
Yeah.
Some people are on Twitter saying, what about Martin O'Neill? What about Mark Warburton?
Yeah, well, here's another one. What about Brendan Rodgers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a message here. It says, Mike, what about Brendan Rodgers, Porky? You can imagine what he would say if he took the job. He would say, I'm telling you, I'm delighted to join this marvellous Leicester club. We've only just won the Premier League.
We have only just won it. Yeah, it's exactly what he would do. But, you know, would he leave his beloved Celtic? Who knows?
Well,
let's talk to Ben, who's a Chelsea fan, get some perspective on what happened to Mourinho versus what happened to Claudio Ranieri.
Yeah.
Ben, a very good morning to you. What would you like to say?
Good morning, Alan.
Alan?
Jim, sorry.
It's Jim.
It's not Jim, no. It's not Jim or Alan. It's Mike and Mike, mate.
Oh, sorry, Mike. I didn't know. I was releasing the radio.
Yeah, I realise the publicity around this show hasn't been quite what it should have been, but carry on.
Exactly, yes.
All right. Yeah, I've heard today. I live in Leicester. I'm a Chelsea fan, but what they've done to Ranieri is not Ranieri's fault. I mean, you can't find better coach than Ranieri right now. And Leicester, is just what the players done to him is just exactly the same what the players done to Jose Mourinho.
What did they do?
Well, when Jose Mourinho went to Chelsea after he left, he came back, and they just no one was playing for him because he lost.
Well, hang on, he won the Premier League for them.
Yeah, that was before, but after when he came back.
No, he won the Premier League when he came back. After he came back, he won another Premier League title, and then the season after that, it collapsed on him. But that wasn't because the players gave up playing for him. It's because...
Well, it was. They did give up playing for him.
No, he didn't.
Of course they did. Costa stopped playing for him, and so did Fabregas, and so did...
So why? Why?
Well, because they didn't like the way that he was running the club, obviously.
Well,
let's ask Ben. Ben, why did they stop playing for him?
He sold Mata, which is one of the best players right now in Premiership. He sold Mata. How would you sell Mata from Chelsea,
Well, he wasn't that good. You had Mata. He wasn't.
He's having a great season for Man United.
He's having an all right season.
No, he's
for
having
Manchester
a great
United,
season.
but he's had a dicky start. He had a poor
season.
The
way he started it with the players, that's what exactly happening with Ranieri.
Yeah.
And they got paid. The players right now, they got signed the contracts and everything. He said, you know what, stuff Ranieri, we do as we like now.
Yeah, well, you say that, but and honestly, Ben, you're not the first to say that. I think it's been a bit insulting to professional footballers. I just don't get it that professional footballers who are motivated to win a Premier League title can, within months, shrug their shoulders and say, I'm not interested in winning anymore. I think that's insulting professional footballers.
No, but they did... But Ben, they had a meeting, did they not, albeit that the meeting was called by senior management, about Claudio Ranieri the day after they lost to Sevilla 2-1. But surely they should have been saying, actually, this is the game that's going to get us back on track. Yeah. And now we can get ourselves into the quarterfinals of the Champions League, get the winning mentality back, and we should stick with Claudio Ranieri.
That's right. I seen the game against Sevilla. The first half, there was just, shambles. But second half, Ranieri went to that room and says, listen, guys, that's my ideas. Do you want to play on the Premier League? What's it called?
Champions League.
Champions League or no?
Yeah.
So exactly the same was got to say in here. If you don't want to get relegated, you should play. Yeah. So it looks like the players, I don't think they're interested.
Yeah.
And the way they've started it, they're going to be relegated. I've got 100%.
Ben, what do you think about the fact that the owners of Leicester City said in their statement today, all they asked Mr. Ranieri to do this season was make sure we have Premier League survival. Now, if Mr. Ranieri then passes that down to the dressing room, no wonder they're demotivated. It's the owner's fault. It's the owner's fault.
He will keep Leicester out of relegation zone, but now they've sacked him. Leicester will be in a big trouble. Like I said, I'm a Chelsea fan.
Yeah.
I love Mourinho, and I think he's one of the best coaches in England right now.
Yeah.
same contact.
Yes.
But exactly the same what's happened to Ranieri. It's my point of view. That's what's happened to Mourinho in the past.
Well,
and it's the players. I can't blame Ranieri for doing. Ranieri brought them to.
I think you're absolutely right. I think Ben's absolutely right. It's madness to get rid of him now. Lots of other names been thrown into the fray, by the way, including, as I said, Martin O'Neill, Mark Warburton, who is now left Rangers.
Mark Warburton, great respect for him, but he's certainly not of the calibre of rescuing a team that's Premier League champions and in the quarter-finals.
But if you're talking
Champions
about
League?
Poaching somebody from another club, right? If you're talking about poaching somebody from another club, by the way, Babcat Barb's already had a mention. I think he's coming back.
That's right.
What about who are you? What about old Ian Holloway?
Well, come on, let's stay
serious. He's doing all right at QPR.
Oh, don't be ridiculous. Honestly.
Well, he knows a bit about, being faced with relegation, bringing clubs up to the Championship.
Have got to reverse a huge error they made last summer in not upgrading their manager to, I would say, continental-style status, even if it's a British manager, and somebody who's going to take the club forward. They let the incumbent take the club backwards. They've got to reverse that very rapidly and very fast. I mean, somebody like Mancini is of the calibre.
You've got to see the scarf back, wouldn't it?
He's of the calibre and the class of the sort of person they need to restore the faith in the club and restore the image of the club and the fear that the club can or could exude against their opponents when they were up at it, but they're not now.
Chris says this: a disgrace how the players who owe everything, including their new fat contracts, have turned on Claudio. I hope they are relegated. Well, I think a lot of fans will feel that way.
We don't know that they did.
Let's talk to Richard. Well, I had a meeting with the senior management and told them.
Who told you that?
It's
been reported, but I mean, these things can be, sit next to each other on the coach on the way home from Sevilla.
No, there was a meeting called by the senior management with the players.
Well,
if you doubt that, then you might as well believe that the moon is made of cheese.
No.
Let's talk to Richard as a Newcastle fan. Richard, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, chaps. Thanks for taking the call. Just really taking issue with your point of throwing Rafa Benitez's name into the hat, really.
Yes.
I appreciate what you're doing with regards to, making a poll and things, but I think it can be quite disruptive for the club that you've actually brought into it, because, you look at the likes of Derby County, for instance, and Steve McLaren when he actually came to us, and what effect that had on them, and they were almost a shoo-in for promotion, and then it all fell by the wayside when, McLaren, was looking at possibly taking the Newcastle job. It didn't go till the summer, but the damage was already done. And I think, you guys can often, put names into the hat and it can have a really bad effect.
Well, you're blaming us for the fact that they're now Rafa Benitez and Newcastle are going to be destabilised. Come on.
Well, I think, it had that effect on Steve McLaren at Derby, and I think...
I'm not guilty of that.
No, I'm not guilty either. I've never pumped up Steve McLaren, believe me.
Beg your pardon?
What I'm saying is we've never bigged up Steve McLaren. I mean, the point is, Rich, you have to accept that football is the centre of, a million pairs of eyes a moment, and everybody's going to have a view on it. And if a manager can't keep his head in the right direction just because people are talking about him, he's not of the calibre of football management anyway.
Why would Benitez go to Leicester?
I don't think he would. I really don't think he would, Richard.
Well, A, he might be a great contract. B, he might be promised a huge transfer budget, which he certainly won't be at Newcastle when they go back to the Premier League. And C, he believes that where there's potential, Rafa will always go. I don't think there's a great deal of potential at Newcastle, but no matter what happens.
Well, all the best, Richard. I hope you don't feel too destabilised by the show.
Exactly.
But thank you very much indeed for listening. Speaking of which, got a great one here from Madge. He says, great show today, Alan and Jim. Haven't heard Tim Sherwood mentioned yet for a change. Well, he's still down at Swindon, isn't he?
Sorry?
Tim Sherwood is still down at Swindon.
But he's run into a bit of trouble, hasn't he? He's director of football and he's been upsetting people, and I think he's had a bit of a slap.
Yeah, M says this: the last time Holloway was at Leicester, he got them relegated to League One. And Johnny says, how about Harry Redknapp? He's the only guy out there who could keep the Foxes up. Remember what he did at Pompey?
Yeah, well, actually, to be honest, I was asked about that this morning, and of course, Harry Redknapp was talking to Jim and Mickey.
What do you mean you were asked about it?
I was asked by people about Harry Redknapp. Sorry?
When were you asked?
When I was here researching this show at about, I would say, 7 a.m. this morning. Where were you at 7 a.m., by the way?
I was in the shower.
Oh, in the shower, 7 a.m. Yeah, that shower is just about a word I could apply to you on a lot of occasions.
Well,
you know what I mean?
What's the point of getting here at 7 o'clock?
Shower. Anyway, asked about...
Just trying to avoid the rush hour from Stockbroker Belt, Surrey, aren't you?
Asked about Harry Redknapp.
Yeah.
I said...
Seen the time, by the way.
Yeah, I said if they appointed Harry Redknapp, it would be a positive move. Harry Parry has done a great job at whatever club he's ever been to. And by the way, even if they said, could you be interim manager for the next 13 weeks, he would do a brilliant job and they would not be relegated.
Very possibly so. Roberto Mancini still very comfortably out in front on 49%, by the way. Go to our Twitter poll.
That was my nomination.
At the two mics. No, you said Rafa Benitez. Coming up, we're going to talk about the curse of Wembley. Should Spurs actually move and forget about playing at Wembley all next season in the Premier League? Because they obviously can't win a game there. This is TalkSport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch. TalkSport.
I said yeah. I said yeah. What they say. What they say. I said yeah. This is what they say.
Now then, this is the two mics on TalkSport with Wix. Right now, there's 50% off selected power tools like the Wix 18V cordless combi drill with 2 batteries. Now just £49.99.
Indeed, we've got loads and loads of great tweets. We've got loads of calls to take as well.
Yep.
The number, of course, 08717 223344. A couple of tweets coming in.
Repeat that a bit more slowly, please.
08717 223344.
Thank you. You see, when you garble it, you don't give our...
You're going to give me a hard time for speaking too quickly.
Yeah, you don't.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you don't give our millions of listeners the opportunity to pick it up.
How about this from Russ, right? What about Louis van Gaal for Leicester? I only suggest it so that I can have a good laugh at Porky trying to pronounce it.
Louis van Gaal... it's could be a really good manager, Leicester. I like Melton Mowbray pork pies.
A couple of people are suggesting Neil Lennon as well, who was also on the Sports Breakfast this morning.
Yeah, he's a bit more of the, I'm telling you.
He is,
a bit fiercer. I'm telling you, my club is great.
Yeah, but I mean, he could leave Hibs and come back to Leicester, where he's had a great career.
He did, but he's not of the... He hasn't got that sort of distinctive expertise, I don't think. Can I read out, please, a very quick message just before we go on? It's
By all
from
means.
Paul the Saint. And this is a very special day. It says, Mike and Mike, that's you and me, obviously. Can you wish Shep and Michelle congratulations? They're getting married this afternoon in Cheltenham, very fine town, where the meeting will take place soon, the festival.
It's not far away, is it?
It's not far away. Shep is a Leeds fan, and a mention from you two would be great. That's from Paul the Saint. Very, very... best, I would say, to who are we talking about here? Shep and Michelle. And I hope you have a great day, and I hope you have a fulsome and rewarding life ahead of you.
That's very kind of you to say. Now, we've got a two mics poll on who should be the next Leicester manager. The four contenders are Alan Pardew, Chris Coleman, Rafa Benitez and Roberto Mancini. We've already heard from one disgruntled Newcastle fan who's blaming us for apparently unsettling Rafa.
What?
And saying that, why are you tempting him and dangling this offer in front of him?
Yeah.
We're doing a Twitter poll, OK? Don't take it too seriously. 52% right now saying Roberto Mancini. Rafa Benitez at the bottom of those four with only 15%.
Now, hang on, he was at the top of the poll. When we first put the poll up, Rafa was right at the top.
He was at
you
the
then
top.
gerrymandered it because it was my suggestion to get it down to the bottom.
No, not at all. This is a public vote. I can't gerrymander it. You still don't understand social media, do you?
I do understand social media. Listen, I'll tell you the other thing I understand about social media.
What?
If you and I go out on the road occasionally, and stand on a stage...
Two mics live.
Yes. Entertain people for a couple of hours, ribaldry and lively, sparky debate and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we're at the Edinburgh Festival, we go to the top venues.
Top venues, Edinburgh Festival.
Yeah.
And you tend to get a great response from the audience,
yes.
or at least we do. But one guy who hasn't recently is Eric Cantona.
Is that right?
Now, he's been at the BIC, which is the Bournemouth International Centre.
Is that sponsored by the Pen Company?
No, it's not. No, it's the Bournemouth International Centre in Bournemouth. And we had an offer once to go and appear there, but we weren't sure that it was a sort of football-y enough area, for want of a better...
Because Bournemouth have only got a team in the Premier League.
Of course they have.
What are you talking about?
Of course they have, but that team have only been there for a couple of years, if you see what I mean. What I'm saying is, anyway, so old Cantona gets in there, and ever since...
What is this, Eric Cantona sort of question and answer?
It's a sort of an evening with Eric Cantona.
Cantona. Well, that could be interesting.
Yeah, I think it would be extremely interesting, and I laugh at the adverts that Cantona does on TV because he fancies himself as a bit of an actor. However, social media is bombarded by... Perhaps that's a bit unfair. Social media has had a number of people who have reported that they were very, very disappointed with the night. Now, when you and I go out on the road...
How much are your tickets for this?
Well, exactly. We might charge up to £25, which we think is great value for money, by the way.
Yes, it is, yeah.
The ticket price
It's not really meant to be an advert, though, for the two mics.
It's not an advert for the two mics. Don't worry about it. It would be great if you went. The ticket price here, £245, right?
245 quid?
Yeah.
What, for one night?
Well, I'm not sure if that's collectively or individual.
You get to spend a night with him for that. I mean, that seems ridiculous.
Yeah, this is incredible, right? one person who was critical, Amy Wield, wrote, "We paid £245 for our tickets to an audience with Eric Cantona, not to sit through a money-making auction scheme." The complaints were that apparently he was only on stage for 45 minutes. He came on half an hour late.
Right.
And there were some who said that he was sort of surly and short with his answers. There wasn't much humour in it. But the most amazing thing here, Mike, is that we clearly have got it wrong somewhere, because 1,500 people attended the event,
right,
where the ticket prices ranged from £45 to
245.
1,000 in the VIP
1,000
area.
Right, so if you average that out at, say, £250...
Well, it's 245.
And he was on for 45 minutes, right?
Yeah.
That would say that he's making, £1 every 5 minutes or something.
Well, something like that. Yeah. But anyway, look, I mean, we can't judge on it. We weren't there. But if you were there, and you can give us some sort of view, you might have liked it. Because
actually, sorry, it's the other way around, isn't it? It's £5 a minute.
£5 a minute, yes. Thank you very much
apologise.
indeed. You might have enjoyed it because, of course, we're always very fair on TalkSport. We give the other side. Matthew Abry, who was somebody who was there, said the questions asked were tedious and delivered with no poise. However...
Well, what question would you ask Eric Cantona if you had the opportunity to do so?
Did you leave Manchester United too early?
Yeah, because you've asked him a question before, haven't you?
Yes.
When you were holding the door open for him at the FA hearing.
Yes, that's
Did
right.
you say, can I hold this door for you, Mr. Cantona?
Yeah, that's funny, do you?
I do, actually, yeah.
So happened that I was a very senior executive at the Football Association.
Is that right?
Eric Cantona had to face disciplinary action because it was the famous kung fu kick into the crowd,
Palace, yes,
where he sorted out a person who some say needed sorting out. Although I'm making no comment on that.
No, of course not.
And of course, he got the 9-month ban. And yes, at the hearing, I was in charge of all media display of the proceedings.
What
okay?
about Mr. Kelly? Was he not in charge of all that?
Well, no, because I was the active and on the ground. However, the organisers at the BIC say we received a handful of complaints. It must be a minority who's complaining. As far as we're concerned, he left the stage to a standing ovation.
Also, presumably people that have paid £1,000 to go and see him may have had some kind of audience with him prior to the show or after the show.
Yeah, but that's elitist.
Taken.
That's elitist.
Elitist?
That's elitist.
Well, I thought you liked being elitist.
I don't mind being elitist in my own right, but the point is, if you have an auditorium with 1,500 people in it, they should all get the same sort of availability.
Well, that doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work like that. In a football
night.
stadium, people pay different prices for different places where they sit.
Yes.
And in the same way, in a theatre, you paid more expensive money for the seats at the front than you do at the seats at the back.
Yeah, but in a football game, you don't then get the star striker coming up to see at the end of the game and sharing a glass of vino with you,
Not anymore, no.
No, exactly.
No, it used to be like that.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
Talk Sport.
You're just a downbeat wet blanket, fairly lazy, sloth, champagne guzzling bum.
Nice way to start the second hour of the show. We are the two Mikes. Good morning. And, of course, we've been talking about the Leicester debacle that's going on. Who's going to be the new manager? We've got a Twitter poll out there. Follow us at the two Mikes. Go and vote. At the moment, Roberto Mancini is the clear favourite. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be talking about Spurs and the terrible curse of Wembley. They don't seem to be able to play there. Surely, if anybody's got any brains at Tottenham, they should find a new venue for next season. Otherwise, they won't even make the top four. 08717 22 3344. We'll be taking your calls on that. Porky Quiz coming up a bit later on as well. And the subject, Mr. Parry, of course, is the League Cup.
It is, because the League Cup finals on Sunday.
And we haven't spoken about that yet, but we will.
We haven't. We're going to. And by the way, what a surprise for the audience, because we're going to be there in a show 1 till 3 on Sunday.
That will be a surprise, yeah. Now that you've told them, it won't anymore. You're listening to the two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on TalkSport. Now, coming up a bit later on as well.
Who was I talking to then? Who was I talking about just then?
Hey?
That clip that the producers
talking
have
about
just
me.
used. I was talking about you. I thought it was, yeah.
You were being, as usual,
like
terribly insulting.
Sounded like you.
Accusing me of being a champagne-guzzling sort of sloth.
No, bum.
Well, you know, it's a family show. I don't wish you'd be using any bad language. Thank you very much indeed. But the fact is that just because you have to work every single second of your life in order to stop yourself from doing anything that you can't imagine doing.
No, it's because I'm industrious.
I, of course, have other priorities in the terms of seeing my kids, you know, taking my dog for a walk.
Oh, of course,
you know, occasionally having to go over to New York, which I'm doing next week to see my mother.
That's
who
right.
lives there, my sister.
When I was researching for this show...
I've got a massive level of responsibility that you could never imagine.
When I was researching for this show, yesterday evening.
Evening?
Yes, I started researching around about sort of 5:30 p.m.
What were you doing until then?
Till about 8:30 p.m.
Did you get kicked out of the pub again?
Excuse me, what were you doing?
At 5:30, 6 o'clock.
And then 7 and then 8?
Actually, I met my daughter who had just finished work, and we had a little a dinner together.
No, you went out on the liquid dinner.
No, I took my daughter out for dinner.
Didn't you?
I took my daughter out for dinner.
Yeah, well, I know what that means.
Well, it means going out for dinner.
No, it means bladderation
on your
behalf.
Do you know what I had? I had some duck, actually.
Duck?
You would have liked it.
Well, I tell you what, I only ever eat duck. If I'm in a Chinese restaurant, you can wrap it in pancakes.
No.
Put some spring onion and the other stuff in it. You know, the green stuff. What's that?
Green stuff?
You know.
What do you mean, cucumber?
Your cucumber and a bit of the old, is it cherry sauce?
Duck sauce?
No, it's...
Hoisin sauce?
No, hoisin sauce, that's right.
Doesn't sound anything like cherry sauce.
I absolutely love it. Any other time you eat duck, there's too much fat in it, so I don't bother.
Well, no, this was tremendously well cooked. It was in a very trendy restaurant in Borough Market.
And how many bottles of wine?
We had one bottle of red between us. It was very nice, actually.
Oh, yeah.
But the great thing about having a millennial daughter, right, is that she's constantly worried about how much money I spend on her, right?
Yes.
So much so that I went outside to make a quick phone call. And I came back and she said, "Don't worry, Daddy, I've just ordered one of the cheaper bottles." And I went, "Oh, how much is that then?" She went, 35 quid.
35 quid, yeah.
Which, to be fair, is not ridiculous.
Well, it's
but, you know,
outrageous.
this is the kind of attitude she has.
It's outrageous.
Because she thinks she's doing me a favour
by
only ordering the £35 bottle of wine.
I had.
What is it like when you go out with your daughter? I'm sorry, you haven't got any kids, have you?
No, I haven't. No, because I didn't want
another
to...
table for one for you, then?
Well, I didn't want to have children and then abandon them and then get fed up with them and send them to America to be brought up by their mother.
I suppose there's always that.
Who I'd also abandoned when I ran off with somebody else, okay?
She still loves me, don't worry. Let's talk to Michael, who is a Hibs fan, actually, but he's got a view on whether Spurs should continue to play at Wembley, where, of course, once again, they get kicked out of Europe. You know, they've been out of the Champions League, now out of the Europa League. Dele Alli, by the way, presumably is now going to have to miss a few games for them after that horrendous horror tackle that he made.
Does that spill over, even though it's European competition?
I would think it must, surely. But we'll find out about that. Michael, very good morning to you.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very well.
Good.
Very well. What would you like to say about Spurs?
Just a point. It's just that Spurs can't win any major finals in England because they can't play at Wembley. And obviously, any Spurs player who plays for England can't play for England because they can't play at Wembley because obviously all their games, England games, are at Wembley.
Yeah, but I mean, does it carry over to England, do you think? Or because, I mean, England have had some decent performances at Wembley. I mean, they never set the place on fire, but I mean, they're certainly much better at Wembley than Spurs are.
But the point is that the Tottenham players can't play at Wembley, so they should be dropped for England. So they should be dropped for England when a major game play at Wembley.
Michael, you got this all wrong.
Yeah, he's got that round his ears.
Yeah, normally speaking, England play weak teams at Wembley. They just do because
like Scotland, you mean?
Well, yeah, if you like, yeah, but without being rude to Scotland. But I mean, there's so many longevity type qualifying competitions these days. Hey? So it's a wrong interpretation of how a player plays. The thing is, Michael, that professional footballers tell us, and I don't know because I'm not a professional footballer, if you really change the location so dramatically from White Hart Lane, which is a compact ground with quite a tight pitch, I love the ground actually because you're very close to the players, to Wembley, which is massive, huge, it does undoubtedly discombobulate the players as to the surroundings in which they're trying to play football.
I understand that, but so that means it's an advantage for your Dele Allis, for your big players who play for England and who play in Wembley finals, so that they're already there, they're already in, they know the changing rooms, they know everything.
Yeah, but
so
their manager wants them. Their manager wants them to play a different style, Michael. The point is, if you play on a massive pitch and you're playing international football,
but also
the international manager will have one way of playing, your club manager will have another.
But people say as well, if you're playing for England at Wembley, by far and away the massive crowd is helping England, right? Yeah. Whereas it seems in these these club games for Spurs that it actually helps the opposition. What do you think, Michael?
Well, yeah, I do. I fully understand that the Razor game would be like a cup final every game.
Yes.
I fully understand that.
Yes.
But should that no raise the game for because they're all football players, regardless if they're Tottenham players or regardless whoever a Hibs player playing at Wembley, should all raise their game. It should be fantastic. You've got 90,000. You've got most of them are Tottenham fans. It should be great. But see, I didn't understand that why they're like shrinking violets in front of their own
Well, if they've got that much space, Michael, if they've got that much space, perhaps they don't know what to do with it.
Well, I mean, surely as well, the argument about, and we'll come back to this. Michael, thank you very much indeed. We'll take more calls on this. Nick's a Spurs fan. We'll come to you in a little while, Nick. Stay with us. 08717 223344. I mean, people say they're unfamiliar with the dressing room. And I remember asking this question to one of the professional footballers we spoke to. And he said, yeah, absolutely. You get used to, where you sit at White Hart Lane in the changing room. You get used to the way the showers are. You get used to the noise.
Have you ever been to the tunnel at Wembley?
Yes, I have.
It's not like a tunnel.
Do you know, I played at the old Wembley.
No, I'm talking about the new Wembley.
Yeah.
Have you been in the tunnel?
I haven't been in that tunnel.
No, it's not like a tunnel. It's like a motorway, seriously. So there's no sense of intimacy.
Have you been there?
Yes, I have, yeah.
What were you doing there?
I went there before, as it was being built. I was being shown around.
Why?
Because I was a very important member of the media at the time, and the man who was the chief engineer on the Wembley Stadium project wanted me to go and see what was going on.
Eh?
Bert. Yeah, he was a northern guy.
The northern Bert.
Yeah.
Know him well.
But you see, Spurs is an old ground. The tunnel at Spurs, which I've never been down, by the way, is very, very tight. You're standing shoulder to shoulder with your adversary.
But one of the things that affects you, I would imagine, as a professional footballer, while you're waiting for the game to start before you go out there, is the noise you hear while you're sitting in the changing room preparing. And I imagine the noise at Wembley must be completely different.
You can't hear any noise in the changing room at Wembley.
Well, maybe that's the problem.
Yeah,
maybe that's part of the problem. But,
maybe it is.
But I mean, surely it would now make sense for Tottenham's management to think seriously about finding a new location.
But where?
But maybe
where?
Could they go to Milton Keynes?
Well, that's the one they always talk about, Milton Keynes.
Could they go to perhaps the London Stadium, the one that they
share
wanted?
It with West Ham?
Could they do that?
I suppose they could, but that'd be a bit like going to Wembley, wouldn't it? Really, in a sense.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
In the sense that it's a big, expansive stadium, and the fans are a long way from the pitch and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, we'll take some more views on this.
Tell you what,
please
I do think
call.
was quite remarkable. Yeah. Spurs attracted 80,000 of their own fans to that game last night.
Well,
it shows you.
Remarkable. It shows you how popular the team is, you know. But they're going to need some success in Europe. Otherwise, what's the point of Pochettino?
Talk Sport.
And it's in.
A diving header at the end of a 50-yard run.
From the root to the tip.
Talk Sport.
This is the Two Mics on TalkSport with Wix. Right now there's 50% off selected power tools like the Wix 18-volt cordless combi drill with 2 batteries, now just $49.99. Now, we've got a poll on the go, Mr. Parry.
We certainly have.
Which is at the Two Mics on Twitter.
Yes.
It is 4 names. Who should be the next Leicester manager? Alan Pardew, Chris Coleman, Rafa Benitez or Roberto Mancini. Yeah. Mancini way out in front.
Right.
But it's drawing in slightly, 48%. The new coming second guy is Chris Coleman.
Doesn't surprise me.
Up to 20%.
Terrific manager and terrific man manager. A guy who can get the very best out of his players, as exhibited by his brilliant control of the Welsh squad.
Right, OK. Now, we're talking Spurs at the moment as well, because I want to get into Dele Alli's foul at one point or other, because I'm told that he will not be in any way punished for that for the rest of this season, because it's only a European ban which will kick in. It could be a 3-match ban or a 5-match ban, but I think that's wrong, all right? He should not be allowed to play in the Premier League for 3 games, having been red-carded with a straight red card in the last match he was in. I think that's wrong, and I think they should change the rules.
Why do you think it's wrong? Why would you cross-pollinate the disciplinary record of a player in a European competition with the Premier League?
Because in order for Spurs to succeed and stay in the top 4 and get themselves back into Europe, Dele Alli will be a key part of that, right?
Of course he will.
Why should he be allowed to play football knowing, for example, going out that he can kick somebody and not face any punishment? If they don't qualify for the Champions League next year or the Europa League, then he never gets punished.
I
think that's wrong.
You may have a point there, and it hangs over until he next goes into Europe, but I think you'll find that the divisions between European football and domestic football have to be absolutely clear. Otherwise, you could have players serving very long bans for offences which take place in games which are irrelevant to the competition they're playing in.
It doesn't matter. It's not irrelevant if you try and make a career-threatening foul on somebody and try to break somebody's leg, which I think he tried to do, right? And he was fortunate that didn't happen.
Yep.
And then he gets no punishment at all. I think it's wrong. Let's talk to Nick, who's a Spurs fan. He might have a different view. But we want to talk to him about Wembley as well. Is the curse of Wembley sufficient to make Spurs move and play somewhere else? Nick, very good morning to you.
Good morning, gents. How are you?
Very well indeed.
Very good.
Is that a dog you got in the background?
No, it's my son. We're in the toy shop. He's excited.
Oh, right, OK.
He's looking around the toys.
Excellent.
Keeping quiet.
Now, first of all, what do you think of the Dele Alli situation?
Which part of it? You ask me and I'll give you my opinion.
Well, I'm saying I think it's unfair that he doesn't get punished at all for that horrendous tackle until next season when if they go into Europe.
Well, it's one of those things. It's always been a rule. 2 different competitions. You could argue the same with if a player made a really bad foul and got a red card in the Premier League, and then it was an international game after, should they be banned for playing for their country?
Yeah, I think they should. Yeah,
Completely different situations.
I think they should.
Well, the rules are quite clear there, Nick. So don't worry that MG's trying to stretch them. What about the situation regarding Spurs? Where are they going to play when they rebuild White Hart Lane?
Well, I'm going to give you the stats: 66% possession, 25 shots on goal, 15 of them went high and wide, 7 of them were blocked. 3 of them went on target, and of the 3 on target, 2 of them went in. Now, they were the stats from last night's match. That doesn't say to me that team can't play at Wembley. It says to me that the team perhaps lacks the quality when it comes to the final third to put some of those chances to bed.
Yeah, but their record at Wembley is abysmal, isn't it? I mean, they beat CSKA Moscow in their last Champions League group match, but that's about the only game they've won, isn't it?
Okay, Leicester won the Premier League last year, correct?
Yes. Yep.
What's their record like at home this season?
Terrible.
Yeah, but that's this season and last season.
No. You're asking me about records.
No, we're talking about 2 different venues.
Records last season.
No, Nick, get me right. We're talking to you about 2 different venues that Spurs play at. They're very good at White Hart Lane, and they've got an excellent record there. They're very poor at Wembley. So we want to know why, and why Spurs should even think about going to Wembley.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is you have to take it into context. Leicester last season based their performances on the league.
Leicester
and they were fantastic at home.
But Leicester, Nick, is a total anomaly, as we've been discussing.
I understand what you're saying.
Spurs are now what you would expect to be classed as a top 4 team, right? At this moment in time, they've played 25 games in the Premier League. They've won 14, they've drawn 8, and they've only lost 3.
Exactly.
Now, if you extrapolate the number of games that they've played at Wembley into 25, you will not have that amount of success, and Spurs will be nowhere near the top 4.
Okay, based on the performances as of the Champions League and this season on Wembley, you're correct.
Thank you.
But last night's performance, I actually thought we should have. That game should have been out of sight by half time.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It wasn't. Nick, it wasn't. And the reason you're out of Europe is because it was no good at Wembley. So why would Spurs?
That's nothing to do with the venue.
No, Nick. It must have. Nick, it must have something to do with the venue. Spurs aren't beaten at home this season yet, are they?
No.
They're the only unbeaten team in the Prem at home. So what I'm saying to you is, you can't blindly say nothing to do with the venue. The statistics say it is the venue, Wembley, where they fall down.
So then where do we... Well, it's Wembley, because that's the only other place this season that we've played away from White Hart Lane. Wherever we go next year...
Not true. You played in Ghent, didn't you?
Home.
You played in Ghent as well and lost there.
No, I'm talking about in
your performance in Ghent is awful too. No. Your performance in Ghent is terrible.
We can't go to Ghent next season. I'm talking about in this country. The only other stadium we've played at as our home ground is Wembley.
Yes.
Wherever we go next year is not going to be our natural home.
No, but do you want a smaller ground?
If we go to Milton Keynes, what's a smaller ground? How can you categorically say now a smaller ground will absolutely guarantee us that
you can't, but a smaller ground is more like White Hart Lane. I like White Hart Lane. The fans are very close to the pitch. The pitch is smaller than Wembley. The players feel intimately involved with the whole, vibe of the club.
They're not very keen on when you get a bit too close to the pitch, though, when you go.
Well, then let me listen, if you're telling me as a Spurs fan, when them players out there get paid 70, 80, 90 grand a week, if you're telling me that they can only perform when they can actually hear the fans singing because the fans are nearby, then there's big problems at the club.
But that's what appears to be the position. The thing is, Nick, and if there's problems, which we've now gone round in a circle, you've now accepted there is a problem, so Spurs will be mad to go and commit themselves to 19 Premier League games at Wembley next season. They should be looking for another venue.
No, I don't think there's a problem with Wembley. That's what I'm saying to you. I think there's a big problem this season because I think a lot of what we do on the training pitch is geared up and measured up and done towards White Hart Lane. I would like to think if we went to Wembley every single week next week, that the training ground will be Wembley's size.
That may well happen, but that's an experiment.
But I'm afraid it's hope over experience, Nick, isn't it? All you can do is hope that it works out and hope that it doesn't actually repeat itself as it has done this season.
That's right.
Well, we know it's going to be a challenge, but then at the end of the day, after next season at Wembley, we're moving into our brand spanking new ground. That's going to be a bigger ground. We're talking about a 61,000-seat stadium, so the players have bucked their ideas up pretty quick.
Well, they'll have to get used to that. The other thing is, by the way... Yeah, don't worry about the time.
No, I'm worried about the time.
The other thing is, Nick, what you haven't appreciated is when other clubs come and play you at Wembley, it's some players' ambition, their life ambition, to play at Wembley. It's going to motivate the other team enormously.
Of course it is, and at the end of the day, this is what I'm saying. The players will need to raise their game. Listen, performances this season at Wembley have been lacklustre. It's not because, believe you me, I've watched every single one of them. It's not because we can't play at Wembley. For some reason, the players haven't played at Wembley.
Well, they can't play at Wembley then, can they?
They're all capable of playing it. You've seen all the England boys do it for England.
No, it's just
They're all well and capable of doing it, but for some reason, our performances this season at Wembley have been very, very poor.
Nick,
that needs to change.
It's just a question of definition. Can't or won't, it doesn't matter. The thing is, they don't.
Nick, thank you very much indeed. 08717 223344. Is there a curse of Wembley on Spurs, and should they be considering playing somewhere else? I think they really ought to. Now, we're coming up with loads more stuff. We're going to be talking about bees playing football. Paul Breen-Turner's going to be joining us. He's just tweeted out.
Is he floating around on a boat somewhere?
He's floating around somewhere off the coast of Gibraltar.
Gibraltar, that's right,
He's going to be talking to us a little bit later on. This is Talk Sport.
Don't phone your mother. Phone Talk Sport. Football on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Atletico Radio.
Talk Sport.
How about this from Andy, who's tweeted at the two mics. By the way, that's where the poll is, which will be closing, I guess, in something under an hour. So if you want to know who's going to be the next Leicester manager, by popular demand, anyway, go and have a vote there. Andy says this: Spurs fan comes on and says there isn't a problem at Wembley, then goes on to list all the problems at Wembley.
Exactly. And says the players can't do it. Now, there's one downturn to Milton Keynes. Thank you very much to a lad called Spursio. The problem with Milton Keynes, fellas, is that there's only one pub within walking distance of the ground, from the railway station to the ground, and therefore no availability to the bladderation get-togethers before the game.
What on earth are you talking about?
Well, that's what they're
doesn't
talking
make
about.
any sense. Well, we're going to be.
That's what the fans of Milton Keynes are telling me.
Okay.
Right?
Well, we're talking
Have
about.
Have you ever been to Spurs? The pub outside the ground is a meeting place.
I've been to Spurs with you.
That's right.
You know, you and I went to Spurs, in fact, famously when you called him Sherwood Steve.
No, I didn't.
Do you not remember that?
No, I didn't.
I didn't go with you, however, the time that you were serenaded, shall we say, by the home fans. You're getting sacked in the morning after you tried to sort of leap over the balustrade.
I didn't try to
from
leap
the
over
corporate.
the
There is photographic evidence. There is also a video.
It's having a bit of
Please
banter.
don't ask people to send it in.
I was having a bit of banter with appreciative fans.
How about this from Andrew? Right,
Yes.
Spurs are coming up against better opposition in these European games, hence not doing as well. Nothing to do with the venue. They played Ghent, who are 8th in the Belgian league. You're telling me that's better opposition than what they have in the Premier League? Please.
They're finding it difficult at Wembley. Now, talking about banter, of course, we get a lot of banter when we go out and about on the road, don't we? And
We do indeed.
We meet fans and followers of Talk Sport and all that kind of stuff, and we deliver it from the stage, and we get a pretty good response. But
generally speaking,
there
was only that one time at Dingwalls where a guy tried to run on the stage and flatten me.
Yeah, that's right.
But he was forcibly removed by the bouncers.
Well, fortunately, also our producer got in the way and got smashed by him and had beer thrown over him.
Well, actually,
that's what our producers are for.
That's what they do. They put themselves in the line of fire
exactly.
for us. Now, we were talking earlier in the show about this show by Eric Cantona.
That's right.
Down in Bournemouth, which you said was an appalling show by him because he only appeared for 45 minutes.
I did
You
not.
said it was a shocking price.
I was very balanced. I was very balanced.
£1,000. You said it was awful, and there was much better value for money.
I said reports
much better value
appeared.
for money from us.
I said reports have appeared on social media that there were some disgruntled guests, but I also balanced that up by quoting the organisers who said no, he got a raising ovation at the end.
A raising ovation?
A rousing ovation at the end. And not only did he have a rousing ovation, but people were queuing up to talk to him
I don't remember you
outside the
mentioning
theatre.
that. Well, let's talk to Alex, who's a Man United fan, who was actually there, and I know that it's always better to talk to people who have got some experience rather than listening to you babbling on about whatever it is that you've decided happened. Alex, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you guys.
So, can I ask, if it's not too personal, which level of fee you paid to see Mr. Cantona? Were you in the sort of VIP area or what?
I was on the £200 ticket.
200 quid? Right.
Yeah. But actually, I was quite lucky. I got upgraded.
Okay. You got upgraded?
Yeah.
How does that work?
It just worked by being a very fortunate person.
Okay, so you didn't pay 200 quid, but you got the 200 quid
no,
sort of...
And I paid for a £200 ticket, but got upgraded because there was some spare seating in the more expensive.
Oh, I see.
I see. So in these more expensive...
Very positive.
Great. So in these more expensive seatings, Cantona comes on the stage. What did you think of his performance, and did you enjoy it?
I was there with my 8-year-old and 10-year-old grandson.
Right.
And it wasn't all about football. It was about Eric Cantona, the man.
Yep.
It was philosophical. And it was, in some ways, I found it really inspirational. I mean, what the man's done and how he lived on adrenaline as a footballer. He then moved on into acting. He'd just come back from Croatia, acting and speaking Croatian.
Speaking Croatian.
He speaks Croatian, does he?
That's
he doesn't.
great,
He just remembered his lines.
Yeah, I see.
Well, that's what he said. He said,
Right.
I can't speak Croatian.
Okay.
But he wasn't. See, if people went there for a rowdy football evening, and it was like a Matt Le Tissier or it was a cricket Phil Tufnell, where they're going to tell dirty stories about what happens in football,
Yes.
Harry Redknapp stories, that type of thing. It wasn't that.
Right.
But if you went there to listen to or watch a Parkinson-like interview with two men sat on a stage, very personal conversations. It was spoke about the Kung Fu kick.
Yeah.
And Cantona even said, I've changed how people behave in football stadiums.
So was he being interviewed by somebody else then, and who was that?
He was being interviewed by a guy called Terry Baker.
Who's
Terry
he?
Baker, okay.
Who's Terry? Is he a local? So local.
He's local, but he runs a sports company looking after quite a lot of sports.
Oh,
people.
I see. Okay, fine. So at
He's
the
not
end,
the same guy who looks after Gaza, is he?
no, I don't think he is. No, I don't think he is. Because that's rather a sad show to see Gaza, bursting into tears and that. So at the end,
can I just ask him if did you pay £600 then to take you and your two small boys with you, or the nephews?
Yeah.
£600.
Grandchildren.
No, that's my grandchildren.
Your grandchildren, sorry.
And we're going to the cup final on Sunday as well.
Oh, really?
Oh, well, listen, we're going to be doing a show from the side of Wembley Way.
At the Hilton Hotel.
Yeah, so come and see us.
Come and see us.
I will.
So, Alex, at the end of this show, what sort of response did Cantona get from the audience?
He got a standing ovation to chimes of "Who are Cantona?"
Who are you, Cantona? Who are you, Cantona?
Oh, Cantona, yeah.
Who are Cantona?
That's right.
And people rushed to the stage, he stopped and he signed.
Right.
And the auction that people complained about, I think they could have promoted it better, that there is an auction.
Yeah.
But the auction, people paid $2,000 for shirts.
Right.
One guy said, if Eric will meet me and my son, I will then pay $3,000, which he did.
Right.
And he's got this amazing picture of Cantona and a photograph of Cantona signing it with his son.
Yes.
And his son's pierced.
Yeah.
There's obviously no shortage of money down there, is there?
Everyone that thinks it's bad should actually look at what actually happened. People that wanted a rowdy football night go to a Matt Le Tissier.
See, Porky's dragged up this criticism of this event, which clearly is unfounded.
No,
that's what's happened.
Well, it sounds unfounded, but I also balanced it up by the organisers saying, Alex, we did receive a few complaints and we've addressed them, and if people want a refund, we're happy to consider it. But you wouldn't ask for a refund on the night?
No, not at all. But let's face it, everyone will have an opinion and everyone's entitled to their opinion. I would say that the majority of the couple of hours there enjoyed their evening out.
And did your grandkids actually know who Eric Cantona was?
Oh, yes. I mean, if I come by on Wembley Way, I'll bring you the pictures.
Okay, that's great. Just
looking at adoration at Eric the King.
That's incredible. Alex, one last thing. Did you know what sort of show you were going to get when you went? You've said to us already it was not a knockabout, laugh-a-minute football hilarity stories, but when it was billed, did it say an evening with Eric Cantona and, the philosophy of his life or anything like that?
It doesn't need to say that. You're talking about Eric Cantona. We've all seen him being interviewed. We all love, and he said it several times. One of the questions from the audience was, will you please say for me, when the seagulls follow the trawler,
right.
It's because they hope they throw sardines. And he took a drink and he said it very lovely French accent, deep voice, and everyone cheered.
That's brilliant.
That is great.
It was great.
What a lovely story. Well, I'm so delighted you had such a good time, Alex.
Exactly.
So thank you for setting Porky straight on precisely what was going on.
So I'll tell you something even better if you've got time.
Yeah, go on.
On Wednesday, I went to Pool Bournemouth, the book that I'm in called Feast of Audi. I run a restaurant. They wanted me to go there and attend, and they had an auction. Right. And at the end of their auction, he said, does anyone know the Theatre of Dreams? I obviously said yes. Yeah. And the auction was for 4 tickets for Manchester, Bournemouth, at Old Trafford, in the prawn cocktail hospitalities, which I don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
And so I bid 500. It then went 750. I bid $1,000. It's for charity.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we need more than 1,000. So I bid 1,250.
Yeah.
Bidding my
you
own
seem to have an awful lot of spare cash knocking about, Alex. I mean, you sure you're paying all the VAT bills and everything at the restaurant?
I'm not paying the VAT, no.
Okay.
No, it'll all come off expenses.
Listen, mate, I would pay the VAT if I were you. You might find somebody knocking on your door.
Hey, listen, thank you very much, Alex. We might see you on Sunday up at Wembley Way. It's very unfair, but this tweet I have to read out to you.
Yes,
Spencer says this: where better to go and capture a large Man United fan base than Bournemouth?
Yeah, well, you might be right, because he clearly is a Man United fan.
This guy's loaded.
And he talked about Cantona absolute reverent terms.
Yeah,
you know.
but I don't understand
Took
why...
my grandsons. It's like when the Isle of Wight Festival took place, not far away from Bournemouth, and Bob Dylan was there, and all these people who'd taken their children out of school were saying, "You've taken your children out of school. Don't worry, man. 2 days of Dylan will teach them an education that'll last them a lifetime."
Yeah. Well, they're not wrong about that, to be fair. Extraordinary amount of money being spent down in Bournemouth there on various.
Well, there's a lot of wealth,
United, well, and that's why
There's a lot of grey wealth.
That's why you're down there in force with your slum landlord tactics, right?
A lot of grey wealth, and actually, the grey wealth, the pensioners.
Speaking of grey wealth,
don't actually go to university.
Speaking of grey wealth, you've seen the state of Paul Breen Turner. I think he's trying to impersonate you. He's grown some kind of Captain Birdseye beard.
You're talking about grey poverty now, obviously.
Well, I'm not saying anything about that.
Grey poverty.
We're going to talk to Paul Breen Turner shortly. Also, coming up, we're going to be doing the Porky Quiz. Don't forget on the League Cup. This is Talk Sport.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The enduring home of football.
It's modern radio, only better.
Talk Sport.
Right, now then, here you are. You listen to the two mics. We're on Talk Sport, and we are with Wix.
Yes.
Right now, there's 50% off selected power tools, just like the Wix 18-volt cordless combi drill with 2 batteries. It comes now for just £49.99.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, we're going to talk to Paul Breen Turner shortly, because there's such a housing crisis in this country, right? But people are starting to live on boats. In canals, in rivers.
Sounds terribly
uncivilised. It does sound terribly uncivilised, but he actually lives on a boat, so we'll get his view. But first of all, how about this from Dodge? You said that guy Alex outbidding himself at an auction. Sounds just like the sort of thing Porky would do.
That's right.
Hashtag plank.
Yeah, let me give you more money, more money, more money.
Yeah. No, don't close the auction yet. I'm going to give you some more.
That's right.
Now, Paul Breen Turner, a man of many parts, not all of them working, of course, has posted a great picture of himself. He's apparently in a place called Europa Point. Do you know where that is?
Well, from the picture, it looks like it might be the Antarctic. You know, the woolly hat and the
he's
beard,
got a beard.
To keep the skin and the face warm.
He's looking a bit like you with his beard.
He's looking a bit careworn, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Not the fresh-faced young man we used to know.
No, he's aged a hell of a lot in the old seafaring scenario. Paul, a very good morning to you, I should say. I think he's got overboard.
How are you? I'm just winching the generator in a little bit. Yeah, no, I'm just tightening the headset while I'm speaking to you because we just changed tack while you were talking. So.
Change tack?
Yeah, we do a lot of that here.
On your show, and I'm sorry I missed you.
Oh, don't worry, mate. We're not sorry that we missed you when you were in London.
I was in London.
Yeah, no problem at all. Listen.
I was going to say congratulations on your success with the show and the book and everything and the tour. It's amazing.
Well, it's very kind of you, Paul. Thank you very much indeed. No, you're a man of many parts, Paul, but the reason we're talking to you is housing crisis in England, in London in particular, forcing people to live on boats, on canals. You've been living on a boat for some time now. How is boat living?
I think there are different types of boats that people live on. I live on a 40-foot sailing boat, and I travel around quite a lot. Some people just live on what they would call a houseboat, a long boat, and some of them are absolutely spectacular inside, better than an apartment in many cases. And if you look at London prices, Mike, if you go to different parts of London, it's actually more cost-effective to live on a boat. And let's be honest, when you have a party, everyone's going to want to come to your place if you've got a trendy boat, aren't they?
Well, but hang on.
People like you fall off. I've been on plenty of sailing boats in my time, and with the best will in the world, a 40-foot yacht is pretty small inside, isn't it? I mean, it's nice if the weather's good, but if you have to go downstairs to the galley, you bang your head all the time. You know, the bedding situation is not exactly great. I mean, it must be very claustrophobic for you to be on it all the time, no?
I've got 6'4" clearance down below, and I'm around about 6 foot, so I don't bang my head ever. And I've got everything on board that I need: fridge, freezer, shower. You know, you've got a toilet. It's just a brilliant place to live, and you meet so many different people as well. You know, your neighbours. Let's be honest. If you live on a boat and if you fall out with the neighbours, you know what you do? Middle of the night, untie the ropes, clear off. and you never see them again. So, there are a lot of benefits.
Yeah, but there's always a danger you might get towed away if somebody else doesn't like you.
Well, somebody can also cut your anchor, and you can get floated off into the Mediterranean.
But tell us, Paul, why did you decide to give up being a landlubber and take to the seas? And do you have plans not just to potter around the Mediterranean, but to actually make the big voyage?
The answer to the first part of the question was, I was living in Marbella and I'd lived there for 15 years. It was great, but it just became a little bit plastic to me. I really didn't feel that I wanted any more of the materialistic things. I wanted to grow that ugly beard you spoke about.
Yeah, become a monk.
Just chill out and to be able to... Yes, absolutely. And to go out and to live with the whales and the dolphins splashing around you, it's a wonderful experience. I mean, I can see in Africa exactly from where I am now. It's 11 miles from me. I'm looking to my left. I can see Europa Point. This is where the Med hits the Atlantic, and Hercules drove the two continents apart. Myth tells us, of course. And the second part, Mike, of your question is, we are heading to the Canary Islands come October, and crossing the Atlantic to the Caribbean early January.
Oh, yeah.
So I do need a cook, Mike.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Porky? He can't cook.
Position,
he can't cook. He can't cook anything. All he can cook is something that comes out of a tin, and you can do that on your own, can't you?
Yeah, I'm sure you could.
No, I don't think Porky would be the ideal person to be,
Paul, to do what you've just been talking about, sailing the Canaries and all that, I mean, you've got to actually be a sailor. You've got to learn how to sail boats, not just live on them. So you're a fully qualified sailor now. And if so, what happened to the journey you told me you were going to make around the world, across the Atlantic, round to Australia?
Yeah, well, you've got to get to the Caribbean first, and I think we'll spend some time there, and then go through the Panama Canal, and then start doing the Pacific. But I don't think the great thing about this life is there's no rush. You do it in your own time. It's a little bit like a snail. You've got your house on your back. You don't rely on public transport. You don't rely on renting a hotel or an apartment. You just go when you want, as you want. And it's that feeling of freedom. You have people listening to this show who maybe sail on the weekend, and their dream is to do something like this. And I can only tell you, this has been the best experience I've ever had in my life. It's been quite remarkable.
And you're unemployed, presumably, are you? Sorry, that's a serious question.
I do a few little bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah, that's good to know. Good to know, because the world would miss you if you didn't. Seriously.
Yeah. No. For example, thank you. For example, Gibraltar, as you probably know, got accepted by FIFA as their latest member last year for the World Cup qualifiers, and I've been working on television doing their matches, which has been again another humbling experience. Population of 30,000. The coach can pick from about 200 players.
Hope you shaved that beard off before you got onto Gibraltar TV.
With so much passion.
Well, yeah, I mean...
Actually, I do. Yeah. Whenever there's a game, I do go and have a haircut, yeah.
Good man.
Yeah. Well, you won't have to worry about the World Cup, though, will you? But listen, Paul, thank you very much
indeed.
Thanks,
Paul. Good
for
luck.
talking to us. Paul Breen-Turner, they're reporting into us from Europa Point, which is the southernmost tip of Gibraltar.
Well, it's where,
sounds a little bit windy down there.
It's where the Med meets the Atlantic, one of those great sort of geographical points on the globe.
It wasn't a great line, because I wanted to ask him quite a few other questions, like how did he do his laundry? Does he ever really get lonely?
Yeah.
And also, more importantly, what about when something like the storm Doris hits you?
Yeah.
Because, I was looking at the River Thames yesterday. I put a picture out on Twitter, which looked like the sea. It was so rough, right? Yeah. There were white horses on the River Thames, which I've never seen before.
Sure.
Imagine being out in the Channel or, in the middle of a storm on a boat.
The thing that most worries me is the old, what can I say, the lack of sort of,
company.
No, lack of company's nothing. There's lack of bathroom and
there is a bathroom
and shower and bath.
But it's all artificially projected water.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's all very cramped. It's all very well to say, I'm 6 foot and I stand on a boat and all that. I mean, you get cabin fever was named after being in a cabin on a boat. Because people used to go mad because of the confinements of boat living.
I've been on plenty of sailboats, right?
Yes.
And I've been on bigger boats that are 40-footers, and they are not. If he says he's got 6'4" clearance, then good luck to him. But in order to climb through into the bedroom, it's a smaller kind of porthole type door.
Indeed.
And if you go into the bathroom, it's tiny. You're knocking yourself out turning around.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM, Talk Sport.
They say if you can smell toast, You might be about to have a stroke.
Well, I smell toast all the time. I love the smell of toast, don't you?
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to the Two Mikes on TalkSport. Massive weekend of football, of course. We've got the Sunday EFL Cup final. Porky and I are going to be up at Wembley just before the game, between 1 and 3, doing a show there. Coming up later on this hour, we'll be finding out why bees like playing football. And, of course, the Porky Quiz is on the League Cup as well. You're listening to the Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on TalkSport. Quite a few tweets coming in on, one, your knowledge of maritime matters, and also on Mr. Breen Turner's existence, right?
Right.
David says this: if I lived on a boat and I didn't like the neighbour, the line I untied in the middle of the night would not be mine.
No, it would be mine. Well, there's one here about the heads, OK?
Yes.
It says they were called heads because they were situated at the head of the ship, where the figurehead usually was. Porky, you are a fabricator. No, I'm not. I know this from my naval intelligence spies. Well, not
what,
spies,
you mean the
actually.
old Commodore down at the old soak down at Gosport Sailing Club?
My contacts in naval intelligence told me that one a long time ago. They were called heads because it was heads up.
Did they give you a heads up, by the way, about the World War II bomb they found down there the other day?
Well, it was a tricky situation, but fortunately...
Has that been sorted out now?
Oh, yes. The bomb disposal unit of the Royal Navy is the finest in the world, and they located it, neutralised it,
what did they do
and disposed
with it?
of
Did
it.
they blow it up there or not?
No. They took the fuse out of it and took the rest of it out to sea.
I mean, Portsmouth's meant to be the home of the British Navy, is it not? Why has it taken them this long to know there was a World War II bomb there?
Because
what's going on with the Navy?
I can tell you what's going on. The two new aircraft carriers, which are 3 times the size of the previous aircraft carriers in the burst that they took in Portsmouth Harbour, need considerably more space below water. So there has been, over the last 12 months, a period of dredging in Portsmouth Harbour.
Right.
And this is not the first bomb they've found. It's the second in 6 weeks.
But even so, don't you think that given that it was quite a sensitive place in the sense where they've got, many very, very expensive and complicated boats of war.
Well, they soon will have,
Well, they should have known that there were some bombs there.
Well, no, really, because how do you detect them? You send out sonar and all that, but you think the amount
I imagine they've got a way of detecting bombs that haven't exploded. I mean, it's the Royal Navy we're talking about, not Woolworths.
The amount of metal that there must be lying on the harbour floor of a port like Portsmouth, which has been the home of the Royal Navy for some 500 years,
but shouldn't they
is
know?
considerable. No, they don't.
Well,
they can't. As soon as they find it, it's neutralised.
Very disappointed. My other question to you is, what about Doris?
Doris,
the storms. Has it made any impact in your life?
Well, I had to get south yesterday, and I was going to go on a train because I had business to do down in Horsham.
Horsham?
Yeah, but I couldn't get there. I couldn't get there from London to Horsham because of...
the wrong kind of wind.
It wasn't the wrong kind of wind. It was the wrong kind of trees lying across the track in certain places, and that's dodgy.
Yes, and it has. I mean, it is still going on.
Yes.
I think people are suffering, so good luck out there if you're travelling. A couple more tweets here. Paul says this: shouldn't that bloke on the boat be careful of all the pirates marauding the waters of the Mediterranean?
Do you know
I did cross my mind when he said you meet lots of interesting people.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, you do meet some pirates on the high seas, don't you?
That's very true. And when you think that he's in an area of the world where people are pouring across the Mediterranean and into the Mediterranean, desperately trying to find themselves a better life, I would say that that's got to be a major concern, really.
Absolutely.
When you see the lengths that some people go to.
And Spursio says cabin fever was actually named after trappers in North America, Canada, who would be snowed in for months on their own.
Yes.
There's nothing to do with ships at all.
No, it is.
No,
well, you don't. Hang on.
Absolute rubbish.
Hang on. What do you call a dwelling made of wood from trees and all that? You don't call
a shed.
No, a shed, exactly. You call a cabin a square room on a ship. It's called cabin.
No, it depends if it's a log cabin.
That's why you have cabin boys on ships.
Have you never heard of a log cabin?
A log cabin I've heard of, but I've never heard of a cabin. It's not called log cabin fever. It's called cabin fever, and it's because it talks about being at sea.
Rubbish.
When you have to batten down the hatches, sometimes you have to batten down the hatches for 3 days as you're tossed and rolled around 40-foot waves, and when you are, you literally get cabin fever.
Really?
That's where it comes from. Now, listen, do you have any sort of personalised objects which are your possessions?
What do you mean?
Well, for instance...
What do you mean, like monogrammed cufflinks?
Yes, I do. I mean, all
That's
that.
the sort of thing you have.
Well...
Have you got some?
Have I? No, I haven't got any monogrammed cufflinks.
You have?
I've got
you
a
said
pen.
you got a monogrammed set of cufflinks one Christmas for your family. You also told me...
They said Everton Football Club on them.
That you've also
got
monogrammed handkerchiefs. Haven't you?
Only
You've
with my
even got-
initials. Only with my initials.
Well, that's what monogrammed is.
MP.
You've also got monogrammed pyjamas, I believe.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have.
I don't wear pyjamas, so
What?
that's definitely not.
What do you wear in bed, then?
That's irrelevant. I have got a
Frightening.
pen. I've got a Parker pen with my name inscribed in it, but it came from one of our millions of listeners and followers. Thank you very much indeed.
That's from Jackie in Glasgow, I think.
But because I keep my eye on the world of commerce, right, I came across a company who now are making a fortune by personalising everything that people want. For instance, there's a guy who I know who lives down near Esher. He's got his own tennis court, and his tennis balls have his name on them.
Why?
Well, because
I mean, golfers have done this for a long time. You can get your name engraved on your golf ball.
Well, when we went to Newcastle once to do a meet the, it wasn't a two mics, it was meet me and Mr. Brazil.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a fans
You
forum.
sure it wasn't meet Mr. Brazil and you?
Well, possibly.
I think it was probably that way round.
It was a fans forum, and as a gesture of kindness, we gave away a few golf balls before the show because we'd just been sponsored by Callaway.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I upset the fans because I started doing my own impersonation of Peter Bidley.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
11 pints of lager. But I did it with Peter sitting on the stage, and Peter thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't do it behind his back.
No.
I wouldn't. Peter's a friend.
Yeah.
And he was in. I told him I was going to do it.
He quite enjoyed it, did he?
He was up for it. He said that was okay.
Yeah.
But then the crowd took against me, and they took the golf balls out of the packets that they were in and started throwing them at me.
chucking them at you.
And they had my face on them.
You've had a lot of these problems on these tours that you don't see. When you go out on the road with me, you don't get that kind of treatment. Whenever you go with Mr. Brazil, it seems that you end up getting oranges thrown at you, golf balls. What else you had thrown at you?
Imagine being attacked with golf balls and got your
That's
own
not
picture on.
good.
But anyway, do you know what you can get your these days? You can get your name on anything you like.
Yeah.
You can even have fruit in your own house,
Fruit?
which is edible, which has got your own name on it.
What do you mean, like an orange with my stamp or something on it?
Yes, that's right, with your face on it or something like that.
Why would you want to do that?
Tea bags, boxes of matches
Hang
in
on.
your own house.
What, you mean tea bags with your picture on?
With your picture on.
How do they do
tea
that?
bag? I don't know, but you can.
I've been worried about the ink.
Sorry?
Wouldn't you be worried about the ink?
You can now... No, it's not ink. It's whatever... it's not ink.
Well, how do they make it on a tea bag?
Well, for instance, when you eat sweets like Love Hearts and all that...
I don't eat Love Hearts.
They have things written on them, but they're not... It's not ink, is it?
No, but I'm saying...
It's a powder.
Well, I'm asking you how the tea bag physically gets some kind of thing, so either a face or some writing
Well,
on it.
I don't know. It's technology. For instance...
Technology.
You can go to Harrods or somewhere like that and buy yourself a personalised jam-making kit and personalised pork pies, which you can make yourself. So you can go into... you can go into a top
Why
store.
would you want to buy it from Harrods?
No, well...
Your own pork pie?
Yeah, no, you go into a top store and you buy a machine, which they then set up so that when the pork pies come out of it, they've got your face and name on it.
Pork pie machine?
Yeah, pork pie machine.
I've never heard such rubbish in my life.
You can buy a jam-making machine.
Well, how does the pork pie machine work?
Well, it cooks the pork pie with your indented image on the top of it.
Are you sure about this?
Yeah,
I don't think you've followed this one all the way down, because it seems to me that you would have to get... You would already have the cooked pork pie.
Yes.
You'd put it in the so-called pork pie machine.
Yes.
And it would then come out with your face on it.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
You wouldn't start from scratch, would you?
Well, you do. You cook your own pork pies. Anyway, there's the top of the range stuff is when you actually have to sign a deal with people like M&M's, and then when you invite your friends round for a drink in the evening, supposing it was my place, my penthouse down on the south coast, summer's evening, you know, and I get
summer's evening.
First of all, you get the wine out the fridge, and it's
hoping that there's not going to be a bomb exploding sometime during the evening.
You're hoping so.
From the World War II.
So you'd have the wine bottle with a picture of my face on it. You see what I mean? It'd be Porky's wine or something like that. You know,
Porky's
even though
wine,
it wouldn't be, but it's the label, right?
Okay.
You then you go out onto the.
Maybe we should do 2 mics wine.
Why not? That's a very good idea. You go out onto the balcony and you might offer your guests maybe a cigarette with your name on it if they were smokers, because you'd have them in a container on the table.
That would be very antisocial sort of behaviour.
Well, just in case they did. But then get this: you might then pick up a bowl of M&Ms and offer them to them, and each M&M.
Who's got a bowl of M&Ms in their house?
Hang on. Each bowl.
This is like a kids' party you're talking about.
No. Each M&M has a picture of your face on it, and so they're actually munching on these M&Ms.
The only thing I do with those is start throwing them off the balcony and try and see if I can hit anything down below.
I should imagine they would. However, the whole idea is it has one flaw in it, right? And that is the regurgitating of presents. So, for instance, when you're given a load of presents sometimes at Christmas, you sometimes give some of them away to other people, don't you?
No,
You know
I
what
never do that.
Yeah, I do.
No, you do that all the time.
Yeah.
In fact, you've tried to recycle a few of them on me.
No, I
Yes, you
haven't.
have.
No.
Yeah, you
But
have.
the point is, if somebody's given you, something like, I don't know, for instance, they might have given you a collection, a box collection.
Have you seen the time?
Hang on, don't worry about the time. Box collection of your favourite DVDs or something like that.
Favourite DVDs?
Yeah, but they can be endorsed, with your face on it as a personalised collection.
It's the kind of thing you would love, but it's the kind of thing I would absolutely
I think
hate.
it's quite a good idea.
Well, you would do, wouldn't you? It's the narcissist dream.
You chop up wood, don't you, on your estate down in Sussex? You chop up wood, don't you?
Occasionally.
Yeah, you get a personalised axe with your face on the handle. How about that?
How about your face on the end of it rather than the handle?
That's
This
a
is
bit
Talk
harsh.
Sport.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Freedom for sport.
Can we kick it? Yes, we can. Talk Sport.
Now then, you're listening to the Two Mics. We're on TalkSport and we are with Wix. Right now, there's a 50% selected power tools like the Wix 18-volt cordless combi drill with 2 batteries, now just $49.99.
Indeed. Now, we're going to be talking bees playing football very shortly, but Manchester United have just been drawn the next round opponent in the Europa League. Alex Dibble's here to tell us who it is. Alex.
Yeah, that's right. They've been drawn against FC Rostov. The draw's just taken place in Stockholm in the last few minutes. We found out United playing FC Rostov in the last 16. FC Rostov 7th currently in the Russian Premier League.
OK, well, that shouldn't be too much of a problem for them. Just before we speak to Dr. Ollie Lukola, who's an expert on bees playing football, I'm going to read you this, right? Now, this is a tweet which has just gone out about Claudio Ranieri. I'm sorry for my friend Ranieri. He will remain in the history of Leicester City Football Club, in the heart of Leicester fans and all football lovers. Now, who do you think sent that out?
I actually know because I've seen it myself, but I did find that quite astonishing. It's old Roberto Mancini.
Roberto Mancini who
is rapidly emerging as the favourite to take his job.
I wonder whether this proves that he may not be taking the job.
I would say it goes the other way.
I would say it looks to me like he's being critical of the owners of Leicester City. Says he feels sorry for his friend, which means that his friend's been hard done by. So you wouldn't say that if you were going to take his job, would you?
I think in the Guild of Managers, and they all expect, that if you don't get results, you get the sack. I would say that is merely an expression from Mancini, a humanist expression from Mancini to say to Claudio, I'm really sorry, pal.
Yeah.
But I think you think that might prevent him taking up the job. Well, I think it might clear the way.
I think the wording.
I think it might clear the way.
The wording of these things is obviously very key, and I would say his wording of this would suggest that he is not going to get the job. But we'll see.
Well, do you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that Claudio may have been approached by Leicester City.
Claudio?
Roberto.
Yeah.
Roberto may have been approached by Leicester City. That he said it's very interesting, and then as a matter of decency, he's rung up his friend Mr. Ranieri and said, I've been offered, how would you feel if I took it? And Ranieri has said, you must, if you think it's right for you, you must take it. Don't worry about me, my time is over.
Where do you get this entire sort of, woven tapestry of what-ifs?
Because I'm a student of psychology.
Are you?
And I think then...
I thought you were going to say a patient of psychology.
I think then that Mr. Mancini might have thought, I tell you what... I
think you're overthinking this.
To Claudio,
he would have
said, hang on, he said, I'm going to put a text out saying that I feel sorry for you. Is that okay? Yes, that's okay. I think he might have cleared the way for the appointment.
Really? Okay, well, we shall see. Right now, you can vote on who should be the next Leicester manager on Twitter at the Two Mics. Roberto Mancini at the moment, well in the lead with 46%. Chris Coleman with 20%. Rafa Benitez bottom with 16%. Now, fascinating story today in some of the papers about bees playing football and what scientists are learning about their ability to actually do very, very ornate and complicated tasks. Let's talk to Dr. Ollie Lukola, who's in Finland, who's a lead author on this study. Dr. Lukola, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, fascinating story this, as we are, of course, in the midst of the football season. We've just had the draw for the Europa League. What is it about bees and football that has made you kind of excited?
We train bumblebees to move balls, or basically score goals. because we wanted to know whether bumblebees can learn something that is unnatural for them, because bumblebees don't play ball in the nature.
Why is it important to know whether a bumblebee can move a ball around, Doc? Is it because you want to find out to what extent the bumblebee contributes to keeping the world going through the pollination of food?
Yeah, so we wanted to know whether bumblebees can solve such a complex task like moving objects like balls from place A to place B. And that was the main reason why we did this study. And, of course, it's really cool to see when small insects are playing balls. That was the other reason why we did this.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of the actual mechanics of the bees moving the balls around, I mean, how does it work? Are they allowed to fly? Are they walking? I mean, how is the game played?
So basically, when the bees, they found this ball on the platform, they just grabbed the ball. Insects have 6 legs, so they're grabbing the ball with their 4 legs. And then they are moving the ball backwards.
So it's a bit like rugby then?
Yeah, we can say that.
Yeah, but the thing is, Doc, they then have to put the ball into a hole, don't they, as if they're scoring a goal or something. That's the object of the exercise, isn't it?
Yeah.
And do they successfully manage to do that regularly?
Yeah, well, of course, at first, in their beginning of the training, they couldn't manage to do that. But then I trained them by using this plastic bee.
Yeah.
And I used this plastic bee to demonstrate them how to move the ball to the goal. And they were observing and following my model bee.
Yeah.
And then after a couple of demonstrations, they learned to move the ball by themselves.
Actually, this is brilliant. Use a plastic bee to replicate the movement you want the real bee to do, and then the real bee is intelligent enough to be able to copy it.
Yeah, they're able to copy the plastic bee, but then after that I trained some live bees, like real bees, to move the ball, and then I use those as demonstrators.
Well,
and the bee,
Does this
the
mean
bees following those live demonstrators were actually more efficient?
So does this mean you could train bees to do lots of different things?
Yeah.
In addition to playing football.
Yeah, we can train them to do whatever, basically.
Yeah.
This is astonishing.
It is absolutely astonishing. Has this anything to do, Doc, with the fact that we're all worried, all of us who care for animals are worried, that there's a desperate shortage of bees in the world, and that is, threatening the food supply and the food chain around the globe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, unfortunately, bees don't. Well, they can solve different tasks and they can cope in environments that are changing.
Yeah.
But like rapid climate change or habitat loss or using a lot of pesticides, I think that's too much for even most cleverest bees.
What, to realise that they're sort of under threat?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
I mean, presumably, or you may tell me no. I mean, are the bees all of equal talent? I.e., are some bees better at football than others? Is what I'm asking you.
There is a lot of variation between individuals. Some bees they don't just learn to move the ball, and some bees are really super fast in learning. So there's a lot of.
It's a bit like footballers, really.
Yeah, it is a bit like footballers.
Yeah.
What happens when these bees are released back into their natural habitat? Do they go looking for things that look like, the balls that replicate the footballs? They must be quite confused.
Yeah, actually, if we release those bees that we train in the lab, that they will try to search objects like balls that they have been learning. But we didn't release these bees. They live about 2 to 3 weeks in the lab.
Right.
So basically, they don't live that long.
I've got a couple of questions from our audience, Dr. Lucola. One is, if they're using their front 4 legs, is that not handball? And also, from somebody else, have they been able to learn how the offside rule works?
They're using most of the bees are using their forelegs in moving the ball.
Yes.
But some bees actually they use their head. They push the ball.
So they head it.
Oh, really?
Wow,
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And they're not worried about concussion.
No, exactly. But I think that's all brilliant.
Yeah.
The concept.
This is the greatest single scientific project I think I've ever heard of.
Well, how on earth, Doc, you train a bee and how you communicate with a bee without using a plastic bee is beyond me. I mean, how do you get into a bee's brain and persuade him to
Probably
do
the same way you get into yours
and persuade him to move a ball around?
Well, bumblebees, at least, they like to follow other bees.
I see.
When they are in situations where they don't know what to do, basically. They're confused.
Right, I see.
So in those situations, they just like to copy others.
Yeah.
And follow others and observe what they're doing. And
Okay, and you found that
information.
And you found that the challenge that most suited your experiment was to teach these bees to move these balls and replicate a game of football.
Yeah, well, I tried different other things, like different objects, but then I realised, okay, maybe they like to move balls. Because,
exactly. Well, that is incredible.
Yeah.
That is
incredible.
remarkable.
Yeah.
Listen, Dr. Lucola, thank you so much for taking the time to explain all of that. We've got some amazing tweets coming in. John Laguna from Muswell Hill, is the goalie called a beekeeper?
Yeah.
Which is great. Kojak says, could he train a bee to co-host a radio show with MG so that Porky could work out what he's supposed to be doing?
Yeah, that's very nice.
And here's one from Craig who says, these bees aren't the ones stolen from the States, are they?
Well, they might be.
We spoke
all
to
those
that
Mexicans
guy who
are
had
stealing
them.
all the bees.
Yeah. Anyway, listen, we kept that going far too long. I've got more to tell you. And no jokes about Brentford either, who knows.
Fatuous question.
Of course, it's the bees.
What a fatuous question. Asking do bees know the offside rule? Honestly, why can't you take these things seriously?
I was taking it seriously.
You don't half disappoint me sometimes.
This is Talk Sport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch.
Just outside Wembley
Very nice
Stadium.
hotel, yes. I think we've already said where it is.
Great location.
People may pop by and see us. That guy who outbid himself for the Manchester United tickets may turn up.
Yeah, sure.
But anyway, we haven't got a lot of time here, so it's time for the Porky Quiz.
Let's get on.
You chose the EFL Cup.
Yes, indeed.
Otherwise known as the League Cup.
That's right.
As the quiz subject.
Yeah.
I have the questions right here in front of me.
Okay.
There is one correct answer. There is no kind of point in trying to get all sorts of information that's not asked for. If you get one correct, you will hear this sound. If you get one incorrect, you will have this sound. Very good.
You want to hear many of those?
Okay, you ready for question one?
Question one.
Everton and West Ham have been runners-up twice.
Yeah.
Which other two teams also hold that particular honour?
Runners-up twice?
Yes.
I think, thinking aloud, I'm just thinking aloud here, right?
I have to hurry you through this because we haven't got a lot of time.
I think Sunderland's one of them, and Everton... West Ham, Sunderland, no, West Brom won it, I think, in 66. So I'm going to say, do you want, two?
The two others,
Two. One is Sunderland, and the other one is Southampton. I'm thinking aloud here, hang on.
Hurry up.
Sunderland, wait a minute. Sunderland and Wolves. Sunderland and Wolves.
Incorrect.
No.
It is Sunderland, however. You get half a point for that.
Yeah.
Sunderland and Bolton Wanderers.
Bolton Wanderers, right.
Question number two.
Okay.
How many finals were played at the Millennium Stadium?
Millennium Stadium finals, inclusively from 2001 to 2007, is 6.
Incorrect.
No!
It is actually 7.
No, it wasn't.
It was 7.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, correct. 3.
Damn it.
Question number 3. In what year did QPR beat West Brom to win their only League Cup trophy?
I'll tell you what happened. That was the first ever one at Wembley Stadium. And
I don't need an explanation of what happened. I need to know the year.
And Rodney Marsh, erstwhile TalkSport presenter,
your
my colleague here, and my mate, was the star of the show. It was 3-2.
Just want the year, please.
And the year was 1967.
Correct.
Hooray! Woo, woo, woo,
Okay,
woo.
that's 1.5 out of 3. Question number 4.
Yeah.
Who sponsored the League Cup from 1990 to 1992?
1990 to 92. Now, there have been 5 sponsors of the League Cup, okay?
I don't want to know how many sponsors
I'm
there have
thinking
been.
aloud
All I
here,
need is the sponsor between 90 and 92.
Think aloud. It's been sponsored by. It's been sponsored by the Milk. It's been the Milk Cup. It's been the Carling Cup. It's been in between. I'm going to say. I think I know this one.
Yeah.
I feel a revving up in my brain.
Really?
A revving.
Yeah.
A revving. Okay.
This is why you're thinking
looking at your
aloud.
eyes. Looking at your
You're
eyes.
looking into my eyes.
And I'm going to say rumbelows.
Correct.
Hooray!
Look how excited he is. All right, question number 5.
Oh, my God. Taking the world apart here.
Question number 5.
Yes.
Only 2 players have won the Alan Hardacre Trophy more than once.
Yeah.
John Terry is one. Who is the other?
Sorry, what's the Alan Hardacre Trophy?
It is basically the player of the game. You know, man of the match.
Well, he didn't tell me that.
Well, you're supposed to know. This is a quiz about the League Cup.
Yeah.
The Alan Hardacre Trophy is the
that's the man of the match.
given
Right.
to the best player in the final.
So what's the question again, please?
The question is, only 2 players have won the trophy more than once.
Right.
John Terry is one.
Yes.
Who is the other?
John Terry is one. I would suggest... Has this been since the start of the competition, by the way?
This is about the League Cup.
Yes.
It is not about any other cup.
Okay.
It's not about the Football League.
Well,
it is not about the Premier League.
I tell you how I'm going to answer that, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to use...
Answer it quickly.
I'm going to use lateral thinking.
Yeah.
The player who's played in more League Cup finals than anybody else is Ian Rush. Rushy played in 5, and I would say he would have to be the outstanding candidate. Ian Rush.
Incorrect.
No!
It is, in fact, Ben Foster.
Who?
Ben Foster. He's goalkeeper.
Well, he only ever played recently in a couple of finals. Rushy played in 5.
All I have here is the answers.
That's rubbish.
Question number 6. League champions Leeds were knocked out of the 74-75 Cup by which lower division side?
74-75?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying? 74-75?
Yes, 74-75 season.
Yeah.
Which team knocked out Leeds?
I was at the game.
Were you?
It was 3-0, and it was my hometown team, Chester.
Correct.
Hey! Woo, 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 woo.
Question number 7.
See, I fooled you, didn't it, eh?
Why?
You thought it was a difficult question. It's not difficult
Why?
for me.
Why is it a difficult question? As you know,
Took you apart.
I don't set the questions. I just read them out.
Yeah.
Question number 7. Bradford City reached the final in 2012-2013 season, knocking out 3 Premier League clubs. One was Arsenal. Can you name the other 2?
2012-2013.
That's correct.
They knocked out Arsenal, and they knocked out... now, this is a very difficult question.
Why?
I should be able to...
The only thing that's difficult about it is that it's in a period of your life where you have no memory at all.
No, hang on.
You can remember everything from the 70s and the 60s, but you can't remember anything from last week.
I'll tell you what, Bradford knocked out 2012-13 we're talking about here.
That's correct.
So that's not too long ago. And they knocked out who? Arsenal. I think
3 teams.
Yeah, I think they also knocked out Liverpool and Newcastle United.
Incorrect.
What's the answer?
And the answer is Aston Villa and Wigan.
They don't really count because they're not in the Premier League anymore.
Well, they were in the Premier League then.
Yeah, well, they're not now. So that was always a trick
thereby
question.
proving that you don't know anything about what happened in
trying to
recent
steer
years.
me down a blind alley again.
Question number 8.
Yes.
Which company will be the sponsors of the EFL Cup next season?
Right. It's a company that begins with B. I think it's called... I'm thinking aloud here, right? I think it's called Biaori or Barai or Orabi. It could be Orabi.
Orabi.
Could be
You
Orabi.
sure it's got B in it?
It's definitely...
You sure you're not been worried about what the B man was saying?
It's got an O, an R, an A, a B and an I. And if I put letters in the right order, I will actually...
I can think of a word beginning with B as well.
I think it could be...
I have to hurry you.
I think it's Aroba.
Aroba. Incorrect.
No!
It is, in fact, Carabao, which is a new energy drink. Thank you very much.
Well,
indeed.
that's got all those letters in that I talked about.
Well, the letters have to be in the right order, otherwise it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, it sounded very similar to me. I think I should get half a
call
point.
You Pike Marriage.
No, I think I should get half a point.
You get nothing for that. Question number 9. Who is the League Cup's top goal scorer per minutes played?
Per minutes played?
Yes.
That would be per minutes played. You're talking about,
played,
right?
yes.
Now, a trick question. There are 2 top goal scorers in the.
It's not a trick question.
And they're on 49 each, and one is Ian Rush and one is Jeff Hurst. But Ian Rush played in more, so it's got to be Jeff Hurst.
Incorrect.
No, I don't believe it. No, it can't be.
It's per minutes played.
Who is
right?
it?
It's Daniel Sturridge. Who has played 296 minutes, scored 4 goals, and comes in top.
That's a ridiculous
74
question.
minutes per goal.
That's a ridiculous question.
If you'd done any research at all, you would have known that.
That is a factual piece of information which is irrelevant, and I want you millions of listeners out there to start tweeting and texting now, please.
Yeah.
That was an impossible question.
3.5 so far out of 9. Can you make it to 4.5, which will still be a below pass level? How much does the League Cup weigh? Question number 10.
What a stupid question.
Why?
Well, an utterly stupid question.
I imagine you've actually held it.
When was it last weighed?
What?
When was it last weighed?
I don't know.
What an idiotic question.
Well, surely you've held the League Cup at one point in your career.
I've never held the League Cup. I've held the FA Cup.
Normally they tour around with it in the times when the games are on.
There are pictures of me with the FA Cup, with the Premier League trophy, but I've never held the League Cup. Do you know what I should do?
What?
I should ring up my mate Andy Townsend, who won it twice as captain of Aston Villa.
He's on the Weekend Sports Breakfast,
Yeah, it's got 3 handles on it, 3 handles, and
Really?
Therefore it must weigh...
I need the answer in metric, please, because that's what I have here.
We don't use metric in this country.
Yes, we do.
We use imperial.
When was the last time you went and bought a kilo of bananas?
Let me just see.
Hurry up.
Let me just see. So the weight of the League Cup...
I'm being put under immense time pressure
hang
here.
on. A 2-pound bag of sugar. It's
Why
about...
are you waving your hands around?
It's about the weight of about 4 pounds. It's about 8 pounds, which in kilos is about, I'd say, 15 kilos.
Incorrect.
No.
Nowhere near. It's about 3 kilos, 2.976 kilos.
Rubbish.
That's true.
But what about it's got the base on, though, and the lid?
That's the answer. I'm afraid you got it wrong. So your total, I'm afraid, Mr. Parry, is a rather miserable 3.5 out of 10.
Completely gerrymandered.
Not at all.
I expect a very positive response, please, from our millions of listeners to let
you thought you were going to do really well there, didn't you?
Let MG, the fat man, know that the gerrymandering
How much do you weigh?
has not gone unnoticed.
A lot more than the League Cup, I can tell you. That was the Porky Quiz, 3.5 out of 10. Disgraceful.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
Talk Sport.
This is the Two Mics on TalkSport with Wix. Right now, there's 50% off selected power tools like the Wix 18-volt cordless combi drill with 2 batteries, now just £49.99.
Excellent. Now then, just before I announce the Wix Caller of the Day...
What do you mean you announce?
I'm about to...
Well, yeah, but we've chosen it together, haven't we?
We've chosen it together.
No, I mean, it's not like you're, the guy that chooses.
No, but I do have quite a lot of influence in these sort of things, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because
okay. You say so.
I'm a man of letters. Just before we do that, if I'd have stuck to calling the weight of the League Cup £8, I would have been right.
Why?
But then you would not have accepted it because you said you wanted it in a metric measure.
So
another bit of gerrymandering.
Well, hang on, £8 is not correct. £8 is nowhere near 2.976 kilograms.
I can tell
Do you
you
know
it is.
what 2.976 kilograms is in pounds?
Yes, 7.4.
6.5, actually.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So it's nowhere near 8.
Nearly 8.
So, in fact, if you were in fact 65 and you were telling everyone you were 65, but it turned out you were 80, you're saying that's close, are you?
Approximately £2 in a kilo. You multiply pounds by 2.
No, there are 2.2 pounds in a kilo.
Yeah.
You multiply 6.5472 and you get 2.976.
I was very close.
You were nowhere near.
Right, anyway, let's get on with the Wix award, please.
Yes.
No, tell us all about it.
Well, every time that you call into this show, you run the possibility of becoming the Wix Caller of the Day, in which case you get £100 worth of Wix vouchers.
That's right,
and
absolutely.
we have chosen a particular caller today. Who is it?
We have. We've chosen Paul, who's a Leicester fan. Paul, thank you very much indeed for your contribution to the show.
Yeah.
It was outstanding. And basically, just to sum up what you said it was the right thing for Ranieri to go. And as Mr. Graham Ranieri to go. As Mr. Graham has already pointed out to you, and I will just repeat it, the Wix Caller of the Day, which is yourself, £100 of Wix vouchers. Just think of all the goodies you'll be able to accumulate with that.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Now, I can also give you the final result of the poll, because we wanted to make sure it was closed before the end of the show. And there's that number again. 47% want Roberto Mancini as the next Leicester manager.
Well,
now,
he could very well be it.
We saw earlier that he's already sent out a tweet saying he's sorry for his friend, and I wonder whether that's going to completely kibosh any possibility.
I think that paves the way for it.
Now, the other names that we had in the frame, Chris Coleman comes in second at 19%,
right.
Third at 18%, Alan Pardew, and fourth, and bringing up the rear, Rafa Benitez at 16%. So your disgraceful attempt to destabilise Rafa and Newcastle
not at all.
before the weekend has backfired.
Not at all. Now then, much talk last night, probably pushed a bit to the background with the Ranieri situation, but Wayne Rooney is now staying at Manchester United until the end of this season.
Does that mean that the China transfer window, which closes, I think, imminently, right?
Closes Tuesday next week.
So there were a lot of people thinking that he was going to make a decision before that.
Yeah.
You're saying that he's now not going to make that decision.
No, he's made the decision. He's staying at Manchester United.
Yeah, but I'm saying for the foreseeable future, which is what, till the end of the season?
Well, I suppose so. I mean the fact that his agent out there, Paul Stretford, who, by the way, under any circumstances, has done a brilliant job for Wayne Rooney. I mean, what he has on offer now has been the highest paid footballer in the world. That's pretty good, considering that when Paul took Wayne Rooney on, he was still living in Croxteth.
And also, it's all very well, presumably, for Wayne Rooney to say he wants to stay on at Manchester United, but does Jose Mourinho want him to stay on? That would be the question.
I thought it was, the body language is so interesting. He was asked a multiple number of times, old Jose, will you advise Wayne Rooney to leave? He said, Wayne's got to make his own mind up on that. Wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement to stay.
It wasn't, was it?
But it wasn't. We're pushing you out the door. So one has to gather from that there'll be serious talking at the end of the season.
And presumably Jose would not object to him hanging around, because there's no issue of money. Manchester United can continue to pay him for time immemorial. But I mean, clearly it would be nice to have the option, you would think, of bringing Wayne Rooney on in any particular situation.
According to a report in The Times, The Thunderer, just a couple of days ago, Manchester United were even contemplating maybe paying up Wayne Rooney's contract if he wanted to go, because he
giving him a sort of leaving bonus.
But anyway, the angle I want to get onto on this is there's mentioned in a couple of reports this morning, would he go back to Everton?
Well, you'd love him back at Everton, right?
No, I wouldn't.
What do you mean you wouldn't? Well, not the return of the prodigal son?
No. When Wayne Rooney left Everton, he was the greatest young footballer in the world. He'd just come back from the 2004 Euro Championships in Lisbon.
Potentially the greatest young footballer in the world.
I honestly believe that a lot of people said that is the greatest young footballer we've seen for a very, very long time. He was 17 and he was brilliant. Now, that was a golden era for his career and for Everton having the greatest young footballer in the world on their books. I love Rooney, and I've collected Rooney's memorabilia throughout my life. I've got his first England shirt.
We know about the shirt that you've got.
The shirt he sent me when I was ill in hospital.
We know about all the stuff that you bought to that charity auction, and you bought everything.
Exactly,
instead of allowing other people to actually go home with some of it.
They got very upset with me.
Yeah, another place you got a load of stuff thrown at you, right?
Yeah, I've got
so unpopular.
I've got a very early pair of Wayne Rooney's boots, signed by him and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
are you fit to lace them? Would be my question.
Well, not in football terms, of course I'm not. But I mean, in terms of
in terms of what?
In terms of success in my individual career, yes.
You're now equating yourself with Wayne Rooney.
You've got to be
never won anything at international level.
You've got to be a high achiever, haven't you? And all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, that's great. That's for the past.
Do you know the show's coming to an end, by the way?
Yeah, but you asked me if I wanted Wayne Rooney back at Everton.
It's a simple yes or no answer.
And I've just said no because I
don't need you to tell me you've achieved as much as Wayne Rooney has in your life.
Everton have a plan for the future, and I personally, although I might be quite at odds with the Everton board and all that, I personally don't think bringing Wayne Rooney back on a short-term contract, which is what it would be, is the way to plan a glorious
question,
future.
Which I shall put to you tomorrow on the warm-up, is the story true, as many people are thinking, that actually there will be not so much Wayne Rooney going back to Everton, but certain players actually going outside of Everton come the end of the season? Leaving.
Do you mean leaving Everton?
I mean leaving.
Yeah, I'm sure players will leave Everton at the end of the season.
Mr. Barkley, to be specific.
No. The players who will be leaving Everton...
I don't want you to explain it now.
...will be those surplus to requirements.
There's no time for it now. Don't forget to follow the Two Mics, at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.